leadership and, on the other hand, criminal syndicates. As Mkhwanazi's boss, National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola made it clear that the provincial commissioner will face no persecution from him and that he, Masemola, played no part in authorizing the closure of the political killings task team. Parliament makes the first move in the effort to really try and get to the bottom of these allegations. Speaker Thogoti Diza announces that 3 committees of Parliament will probe the matter. This as we wait, of course, to hear from the President what steps will be taken from his side to try and get to the bottom of these issues, but also to deal with the impact of these allegations, particularly in the credibility of the leadership, the political leadership within the policing department. So we'll have multiple takes on that story. Xola Nqola is the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development in Parliament. He will speak to me at about 7:20 this morning. We'll also hear from the Human Rights Commission. The Human Rights Commission hardly ever weighs in on matters like these. To be honest, I've not seen them jumping in without invitation on matters of this nature, really confining themselves to issues that you can clearly identify that they speak to issues of human rights. But this time around, they've also come out and had something to say about their concern about these allegations and making that call that these allegations need to be investigated and investigated thoroughly as soon as possible. So the chairperson of the South African Human Rights Commission, Chris Nissen, will talk to me at about 7:15 this morning. And of course, we'll give you the analysis and insights of Gareth Newham in the second hour at the top of 7, just about the credibility issues of the policing institutions. We've now heard from the National Police Commissioner, many people interpreting what he was saying and what he was not saying, right? There was a lot there. I got a sense that there was a lot in what Fani Masemola was saying. For instance, saying that he signed no letter that was authorizing the whole issue of disbanding the political killings task team. When he was asked what's the reason for disbanding that task team, he said, I don't know. He said, I don't know, and then went on to say, but as following the arrest of that man, Vusumuzi Ket Matlala, we now know what the reasons are. And he said, I don't want to say more on that. So I felt that there was a lot that was being said without being said. And Gareth Newham will help us to make sense of what we've heard thus far and how it bodes for the leadership of the police. And then let me tell you this. Despite calls for adherence to health and safety protocols during this winter's initiation season, tragedy has unfortunately struck in the Eastern Cape's OR Tambo district. This as 4 initiates have died, putting a blight on the 2025 winter initiation season. The initiation season, as you know, is a time that is meant to mark the sacred passage into manhood, but instead has ended in profound loss for the families of these 4 initiates. The OR Tambo District Municipality in particular is lamenting the fact that these measures, that these deaths have occurred despite many proactive, preventative and awareness measures that it says had been taken ahead of the initiation season. So at about 7:50 this morning, I'll be in conversation with the mayor of the OR Tambo District Municipality, Councillor Thandegile Sabisa, and that conversation coming up at about 7:50. And then lastly, let me flag this story. Following a deadly surge in gang violence in Mitchell's Plain in Cape Town, where 5 people were killed and 14 others wounded in just a few hours, local community leaders are urgently calling for the South African National Defence Force, SANDF, to be deployed to stabilize the area. It's been a deadly couple of weeks in the areas around the Cape Flats, and this call is now being made for the SANDF to be deployed in those areas to support policing activities. I think this was done a few years ago. I wonder how effective it was and how sustainable it is as a solution. Or do we then, are we at a point where we just want an interim solution to just stem the bleeding? And that choice of word is, of course, unfortunate, but to just stop the carnage at the moment. So I'll be in conversation with Michael Jacobs, who is the Lentegeur Community Policing Forum chairperson. That conversation is coming up at about 10 to 7. The full bench of the Morning Brief team is ready, able and willing to serve you with your essential updates throughout the morning. And Musa stands at the ready with your hourly and half-hourly news updates. Rob Byrne confirms that he has your traffic updates. Dumin Khapele in this morning confirming with your sport. Melissa Puta has your morning brief in brief, and that will be coming up shortly. Dowling Lechela, as always, right on the money with your news around the economy, business and the markets throughout the morning. And Sipho Mantula, Raz, will have your Africa update at about 20 to 7. You are a big part, an essential part, a critical part of the conversation. So do give me a call and let's engage and sharpen each other's perspectives on these and other matters. The number to dial to reach us is 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. On social media, you can reach us by using the handle at SAFM Radio on X, and we are SAFM Radio on Facebook and Instagram, and we are, as always, live on our YouTube channel, and that is SAFM Radio. So what are we waiting for? Let's get the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief underway.
You are listening to SAFM Radio this Mandela Month.
It is in your hands now.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the Morning Brief.
All right, let's get the briefing session started with Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief. Melissa, good morning. Let's start with this announcement from the Minister of Health, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, of this 1 billion rand funding boost. What is it meant to do around the country's HIV/AIDS program?
Morning, Thulasizwe. South Africa's Treasury says that it has allocated over 700 million to support HIV and AIDS programs after the withdrawal of U.S. PEPFAR funding. Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi reaffirmed that the government's commitment to ending HIV and AIDS by 2030, while local and international partners, including the Gates Foundation and Wellcome Trust, pledged additional support. Experts warn the funding falls far short of the 7.9 billion previously provided by PEPFAR. So this is an interesting development indeed.
Yeah, the gap is wide, the funding gap that has been left by that aid and support that has been withdrawn by the United States. Let's see how that can be plugged. Talk to me about, this is a story we touched on last year. Late last year, we started touching on this story. The disconnections continue around schools in Gauteng for unpaid bills.
Yes, so it has been revealed that over 500 schools in Gauteng faced electricity disconnections in this year due to unpaid municipal bills totaling nearly 60 million rand. Many of these schools are no-fee and hold Section 21 status, meaning they manage their own finances. Disconnections, some lasting over 30 days, severely impacted classroom lighting, technology use and hygiene. Education MSc in the province, Matimu Shilwane, said over 2,000 schools were granted financial autonomy in recent years, with training provided to school governing bodies. The Gauteng Department of Education is working with municipalities and Eskom to resolve the issue, but cannot pay off the arrears. The DA has also voiced their own opinion, warning of a deepening utility crisis affecting education quality in the schools.
That point that's being made about schools managing their own finances is one thing, but last year I remember we took a call, or was it a voice message from one principal who said actually at the heart of the issue is that that function was taken away from schools and centralized. And then when it was centralized in the department, the non-payment started. So let's see what's really the reason behind the non-payment of utilities. Tell me about this man accused of murdering Likona Fose. What's happened in that case?
This is quite a sad update to last season. Duduzi Trevor Mnisi, a 39-year-old parolee accused of murdering the 14-year-old Likona Fose, was granted a 5,000 rand bail by the Roodepoort Magistrate Court due to a lack of direct evidence linking him to her disappearance. Likona went missing on May 31st and was found mutilated the next day. sparking outrage in Durban Deep and Bramfisherville. Missy's girlfriend provided an alibi and cell phone records supporting his claim of being in Davidton at the time. Despite the state's opposition, the court ruled in Missy's favor, and the case resumed on Friday, July 11th, for further investigation.
And lastly, Melissa, tell us about this shooting involving a Ward 10 councillor in the city of Tshwane.
So Gauteng police have opened a murder case following the fatal shooting of Ward 10 councillor Thabang Masemola in Mamelodi East on Tuesday. He was ambushed by unknown suspects in a white Nissan Almera, and the motive remains unknown. No arrest has been made at this time. The ANC and the DA condemned the killing, highlighting growing concerns over the unresolved councillor murders, and eroding public trust in law enforcement. Both parties called for swift justice and accountability for this case.
Well, the political killings task team has been disbanded, and we don't know why. Neither does the National Police Commissioner. All right, Melissa, anyway, thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, let's give you a sense of how your weather will be looking on this Thursday. Let's start in Pretoria, where the weather will be fine with a minimum of 5 and a maximum of 18. Johannesburg, same weather condition, fine with a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 18. Mbombela, fine, 6 to 24. Polokwane, fine, 2 to 21. Mahikeng will be fine with a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 19. Bloemfontein, fine with a minimum of -1 and a maximum of 17. Kimberley, fine and windy, 5 to 20. Uppington, fine and windy, 7 to 22. Cape Town will be cloudy with light rain, 12 to 15. George will be fine with a minimum of 8 and a maximum of 18. Gqeberha will be cloudy at first, otherwise fine with a minimum of 9 and a maximum of 20. East London, fine, 13 to 23. Durban will be fine with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 24. Richards Bay, fine, 12 to 26. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will be fine with a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 24.
On SAFM.
In light of what was said by General Mkhwanazi and the fact that Mr. Matlala's profile was now in the public space or raised because of those allegations, then it was also in his interest for him to be moved to CMAX prison.
And we were asked, why is this inmate at CMAX? The National Commission then provided a response that no, this offender had to be moved there because we confiscated a mobile phone. We never issued a statement to that effect.
And the fact that you are unable to provide an answer as to whether this happened before or after the briefing by General Mkhwanazi in and of itself will raise questions.
It's not a matter of being unable, but we are not going to come on air and then give detail in terms of security operations.
Singabakho Ngumalo.
If you're ready to talk, I'm here to listen, and nothing is off the agenda.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
Let's bring you an update around the flooding that has taken place in at least 2 states in the United States, the latest of which is New Mexico, where at least 3 people have died in the village of Ruidoso, New Mexico, after flash flooding triggered by heavy rainfall swept through the area, marking yet another deadly flood disaster in the southern U.S. The event comes as neighboring Texas continues to reel from catastrophic flooding that has left over 100 people dead and dozens more still missing. Let's speak to Professor Guy Midgley, who is climate change researcher and acting director of the School of Climate Studies at the University of Stellenbosch. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. So these floods in these 2 states in southern United States, how do they fit into the pattern that we know of what we can expect around this time in terms of the weather and climate?
That's a good question. Thanks for having me. And firstly, obviously, it's a human tragedy, so condolences to those affected. Well, what we're seeing here is just to some extent, at least, an effect of climate change overlaid on, usual climate cycles. And the reason I say this is that the two states involved are fairly close to the Gulf of Mexico, and the water in the Gulf of Mexico, in the ocean, is well above average temperature. And that tends to increase the amount of moisture in the atmosphere, which gets fed to the north, onto the land. And that really juices up the climate system and results in much more intense rainfall events. That's the one part of it. The other part is that this region has suffered a drought for a long period of time. And that has sealed the soil and made the soil very resistant to water, absorbing water. So the water is shed very fast off the water surface, off the soil surface, and that can then make the flash flood conditions even worse than they normally are. So those are two elements that have really made this situation worse than normal, and a good example of how we as humans are altering the climate to make life more dangerous for ourselves.
This sounds very familiar, Prof. I think it's a similar conversation we had. Was it Spain that had similar flooding? So that combination of a drought preceding the formation of storm systems over the ocean, which then lead to stronger than usual rainfall, but that doesn't get absorbed into the ground, leading to flash flooding. So is that becoming a more common theme in many regions of the world?
Yeah, that's an excellent observation by you. That's absolutely true. There's actually a name for this phenomenon now. It's called whiplash climate events. Mm-hmm. And the whiplash is to do with the antecedents or the previous conditions which set something up, and then the lash happens when the next set of conditions arrives. It goes in the opposite direction and results in So the fires at the Palisades in California was also a whiplash event, because there was a very wet year which created all this vegetation that could be burned, and then a dry, hot year. And that was another whiplash example. So these are what we call fingerprints of climate change. So what we can say is that the fingerprints of climate change are all over these events and all over the world. There's no event anywhere in the world now that's unaffected by climate change, because we've just changed the atmospheric temperature, the humidity, temperature of the ocean so much that the whole world is now operating in a new way, and it looks as though it's a lot more dangerous for human society. In many ways, it's a lot more dangerous, and we've got to adjust and adapt very, very fast.
In the case of New Mexico, there's a story also that talks about wildfires that took place in 2024, and we're told that they devastated and stripped the area of what's known as natural flood barriers. And I'd never given that any thought, that within the environment there are usually natural flood barriers, and when those are gone, you're left with this situation.
That's also a fantastic observation, and we call this in the adaptation space a nature-based solution, or an ecosystem-based adaptation, where nature provides buffers for human society in a very inexpensive way very often. But if we mismanage nature, we lose those buffers. The examples are buffers along the coast in the form of marshlands and coastal forests that buffer us against extreme tidal events, and then in land cover on the surface of the land. If it's burned off in a fire and becomes sealed, you get the same thing. We're very prone to that in parts of South Africa. And just as we are very prone to these flooding events in parts of KZN, for example, we have similar sorts of events happening. So it's a good observation, yes.
All right. I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That's Professor Guy Midgley, who is climate change researcher and acting director of the School of Climate Studies at the University of Stellenbosch.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Afternoon meets morning. Are your eyes even open at this time? Come on,
just saying,
it's
I'm
not
struggling.
that bad.
I'm struggling, but I'm up. I'm here. Let's do this.
Did it really have to be PSG that my team faces in the final of this? Did it have to be the efficient and, I don't know, just unstoppable PSG?
You're not the only Madrid fan, and unfortunately, they were thrashed.
No, I'm worried about the final. My team is in the final.
Oh, are you a
That's my
Chelsea?
worry now.
Oh, snap.
I've moved over. Cala Madrid, they call them. Is it Cala Madrid?
Cala Madrid. Well, a very good morning to you and our listeners. Paris Saint-Germain will face Chelsea in the final of the Club World Cup. This is after beating Real Madrid 4-0 last night. PSG were 3-0 up after just 24 minutes with a brace from Fabian Ruiz and Ousmane Dembele strike, and then Gonzalo Ramos getting a late fourth goal to seal a win for Luis Enrique's side. Then moving on to Women's Africa Cup of Nations, Zambia fought hard to beat Senegal 3-2 in their Group A clash, while Morocco claimed a 4-2 win over DR Congo. Then moving on to rugby, Kwagga Smith says that the Springboks are working around the clock to sharpen their performance after an imperfect 42-24 win over Italy at Loftus Versfeld. Despite the 18-point margin, both coach Rassie Rasmus and the players sounded subdued after the game, and Smith insists that it's because they demand perfection and have been using the week to refocus on improvement.
Yeah, definitely. We want to be the best team in the world, and I think you got to be honest with yourself. If you know you didn't play to your ability and you didn't play well, although you win by 18 points, it doesn't matter. It's all about your standards and making sure that you live up to that standard. So I think the honesty is a really good thing in our environment and in our squad.
In tennis, wheelchair tennis ace Kgothatso Montjane made a winning start to her singles campaign at Wimbledon with a 7-6, 6-2 win over Cornelia Oosthuizen in the first round. Meanwhile, Montjane and Yui Kamiji have crashed out of the tournament following a 6-4, 7-6 loss to Chinese duo Chao Li and Xiang Wang in the ladies' wheelchair doubles quarterfinals. And that's where I end things for this hour. I'll have more in the next hour.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, Parliament has given 3 portfolio committees tasked with investigating KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's allegations against Police Minister Senzo Mchunu 14 days in which to conclude their work. And Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi supports Action SA's call for government to make it mandatory for public officials to use public hospitals. Motsoaledi says the funds utilized for medical aid subsidies should be redirected to his department's budget for essential services and maintenance. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Monitoring the highway flows around Joburg, around Gauteng. In fact, it's really sort of got the feeling of school holidays. Traffic volumes a lot lighter. Busy routes are busy, but nowhere near what they usually are. No major incidents. Breakdown coming out of Pietermaritzburg on your way to Durban before Ashburton. So it's between Market Road and Ashburton. Bit sluggish getting through that one. Breakdown on Durban's N2 southbound. Usual spot around Westwood Mall. So between Umgenero and Spaghetti Junction, traffic is starting to queue up through that particular section at this stage. Cape Town, still no traffic lights on the R44, Broadway Boulevard at the N2. That caused major delays coming into Somerset West last night. It'll back you up pretty heavy coming out of Strand on Broadway Boulevard, past the mall and up over the bridge this morning as you work your way in towards sort of Somerset West and direction Stellenbosch. In Cape Town, the M7 has a problem this morning coming out of Mitchell's Plain. You've had a good run for a long time leaving Mitchell's Plain, but not this morning. Big queues into Samora Michelle on the M7. Behind that, the R300 backlogging quite heavily coming out of Mitchell's Plain to get into that M7. And a breakdown on the N2 going into town at Lisbik Parkway. So that's slow from Langa. Behind that, the M5 queuing coming through from Rondebosch up to off-ramp into that traffic along the N2. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Here with the first update of the morning is Ndawling Lechela. Good morning to you, Ndawling. Let's start with the debate around whether to cut or to hold in as far as the rates are concerned in the United States. What's the debate there among the Fed officials?
Morning, Thulas. So yesterday we got the Fed minutes and they revealed that officials had differing opinions on interest rate cuts at their June meeting, reflecting concerns about inflation, labor market weakness, and economic strength. Despite unanimously deciding to hold the key borrowing rate last month, the minutes revealed a growing divide on future rate moves. Most officials believed some reduction in interest rates would be suitable this year, considering considering potential temporary inflation pressures from tariffs and possible economic weakening. The officials' views on rate cuts varied, with some suggesting a potential cut as early as this month, while others thought no reductions would be necessary this year. A few officials believed the current interest rate might be close to neutral, suggesting limited room for cuts due to inflation above the 2% target and a resilient economy. Now, the officials expected 2 rate cuts this year and three more in the following year, but individual outlooks are starting to reflect somewhat of a division.
So why does this story not surprise me, Dowling? Another G20 meeting coming up and the US won't be taking part. Why am I not surprised?
No one is surprised. US, of course, MIA, and this following SA being slapped with tariffs worth 30%. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent confirming that he'll be skipping the G20 finance officials meeting in KZN scheduled for July 17th to 18th. Instead, he'll attend the World Expo 2025 in Japan on the 19th of July, where he'll lead the US delegation. This marks the second time Bessent has skipped a G20 meeting in SA amid President Trump's imposed tariffs on local imports and concerns over land policies. Now, Michael Kaplan, acting Undersecretary for International Affairs, will represent the U.S. Treasury Department at the G20 meeting. Bessent's decision to attend the World Expo 2025 in Japan highlights a shift in focus towards trade and diplomacy in the region. Those two nations, the U.S. and Japan, of course, struggling to reach a trade deal. So in Japan, he will be joined by Labour Secretary Lori Chavez de Reme and Deputy Secretary of State Chris Landau, leading the U.S. delegation at the U.S. National Day next week in Japan.
Yeah, and they are the next president of the G20. That really is the subtext of this particular story. How are the markets looking at this hour, Dowling?
So despite, yesterday being D-Day and nothing coming out of that, markets seem to be shrugging off the concerns that come with those trade policies, or no word about those trade deals, with markets recovering after a downbeat showing on Tuesday. U.S. markets in the green, the Nasdaq leading the gains, up 0.94%. Boosted by Nvidia after its market cap soared to $4 trillion. Coming back home, trade was mixed, with the all share down 0.03%. The rand, however, remaining stable this morning. It is sitting at 17.80 to the dollar. Lastly, in Asia, traders remain somewhat concerned about those steep tariffs, especially the trade deal that hasn't been reached between US and Japan. And so trade on that front mixed, with Japan's Nikkei taking the hardest hit.
All right, Dowling, thank you for that. Let's talk to you again after 7:30 for the second update of the morning.
Africa Update on SAFM.
And with that, let's turn to Sipho Mandula. Raz, good morning to you. Let's start in Mogadishu. Tell me about this suicide bombing. We have not heard about this in a while. I think we reported one a few months ago, didn't we?
Refreshing morning, Thulas and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Indeed, Thulas, we have been reporting on the crisis in Sudan. In Somalia, actually, Thulas, that has been going on. And the issues of suicide bombers, attacks of different communities. But this time it's in a military academy in Mogadishu, in Jale Sihat military academy. The government, Thulas, it is still not clear about what was the cause and even the motivation or political motivation of this attack. But they are aware there are local militias who have been attacking some of the Somalis' strategic points to us. And here, if once you go to the military college, you are going to the national key point. And this group is called Karawija group, that is almost similar to the Al-Shabaab. And that's where the government of Somalia has not confirmed even how many people have died to us, because this happened just in a military Academy.
In neighboring Kenya, protests continue and much concern around the use of force by the police in that country.
Thulas, you'll understand that President Ruto is not happy with the High Court judgment yesterday that have said that police are not allowed to use the roadblocks of obstructing the public demonstration. And William Ruto, raising the issue that it means that millions of ordinary Kenyans, they will not enjoy the state security. And the police have been blocking roads, parliaments, the House of the President, and this judgment also to us of yesterday raises the issue of not even the use of the tear gas or the use of water cannons. And that's how President Ruto is a bit worried, because this protest has been going on to us since Monday in terms of celebrating the Saba, what we call 35 years of the coming into multi-party democracy in Kenya in 1990. Others are saying that the freedom of assembly and freedom of movement should be enjoyed by Kenyans under Article 37 and Article 39.
And let's touch on what's happening in the DRC, the debate around whether the resources and minerals are a blessing or a curse. Tell me about why there's a complaint that's being laid against the president of the DRC, but it's being laid in Belgium.
So this has been laid in Belgium because some of the families of Felix Tshisekedi, they are staying in Belgium. You know, you'll understand that they are in Brussels, and these are your sisters-in-law. They're including brothers and cousins, even the first lady. But this complaint has been lodged by several NGOs from Katanga, using the lawyers from Belgium, raising the issues around embezzlement of funds, the issues of stealing mines that are in the upper Katanga, the southern part of DRC, and also raising the issue of the family of Tshisekedi enjoying all these benefits because of proximity to the head of state, the issues of corruption, the issue of the bad behavior or the conduct that is being done by these business companies and the mining that are coming under the family of Tshisekedi. That shows to us we are living in the times of plutocracy, or what we call kleptocracy or democracy, where money, resources, properties are governing the lives of ordinary citizens of the DRC. And that comes from Brussels, and that's the former colonizer of the DRC.
And lastly, Sipho, in your historical archives, these words will forever ring in our minds, right? Tell my people I love them. Tell them to continue the struggle. My blood will nourish the tree that will bear the fruits of freedom. Tell me what happened on this day, on the 10th of July, 1956.
Thulas, he will have been 69 years, Kalushi Solomon Mahlangu, who was born in Donorkop in Middelburg, Thulas. He will have been 69, but we have normally looked at April 1979, the 6th of April, when he was hanged. He also got the Order of Mendi for bravery in gold for his life for freedom and democracy in this country. You will recall that Solomon Mahlangu, his name is being inscribed to us in many countries. If you look from Tanzania, you look in many other African countries, the name of Solomon Mahlangu. Universities have the name of Solomon Mahlangu. I looked at the Freedom Square of Solomon Mahlangu in Mamelodi, Thulas. That also has to be the shrine of Kalushi. You look at University of South Africa, the Solomon Mahlangu building. Wales has got the name. There was a film in 2016, Kalushi, that was led by Thabo Rameti, who played the role of Kalushi. Tanzania has a top university named after Solomon Mahlangu campus. So you can see the impact of Solomon Mahlangu Thulas. Even in Eastern Cape, I've seen Nelson Mandela University, Rothschild University.
Yeah.
They've named some of the halls under the name Solomon Kalushi.
Let me add one before you say goodbye, Sipho. Remember the Fees Must Fall movement, right? And how he became the inspiration for that generation as they were facing their own struggles around access to quality higher education, decolonized education.
That is quite true, because you recall it's a decade now since 2015 of the Fees Must Fall, and that is quite correct what you have said, that the song of Solomon Mahlangu was recited by student activists across South Africa, and that shows what we call the revolutionary spirit and the inspiration that was led by Khalushi Solomon.
In fact, not to be self-indulgent, sorry, Sipho, it ended up with Wits University renaming what was known as Senate House to Solomon Mahlangu. So,
that is the impact of Khalushi Mahlangu.
Right.
And like I said, the Freedom Square in his hometown should be the national shrine. Young people who are in holidays, that's where they can ground and learn a lot. We still need museums for knowledge. We still need academic curriculum on this side of the soil. Asante sana Thulasizwe still in the conversation. SFM observing the International Mandela Month as well as Khalushi Mahlangu Day.
All right, that's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update for this morning.
SAFM music crafted to make you feel real good. Handpicked just for your pleasure. Classics sounding so good only on SAFM.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, let's move now to the story that is coming out of the Western Cape. I did flag it a bit earlier on. Following a deadly surge in gang violence in Mitchell's Plain, Cape Town, where 5 people were killed and 14 others wounded in just a few hours, local community leaders are urgently calling for the South African National Defence Force to be deployed to stabilize the area. Amid mounting frustration over inadequate police resources and ongoing bloodshed, residents, religious leaders and community policing forums are mobilizing in protest and demanding immediate intervention. Let's speak to Michael Jacobs, who is the chairperson of the Lentegeur Community Policing Forum. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. In the last few days, it's been really a deadly week or so in areas around the Cape Flats. Before we get to your call for more intervention and perhaps boots on the ground in as far as the SANDF is concerned, just paint the picture for us of just how devastating the last few days have been in the area.
Good morning, Mr. Simelane and the listeners. Well, I can say that Mitchell's Plain has been bleeding. And this is an
Mr. Jacobs?
Consequences.
Sorry, sir. Mr. Jacobs, I think we lost you for a moment there. Please start that point again. You were saying Mitchell's Plain is bleeding.
It's really bleeding, and for the last couple of months, we have seen this deadly shoot and drive-by shootings. And of particular concern is where groups of people or young people are gathering. People are indiscriminately targeted near tuck shops. So we are appealing to the authorities and the local authorities that these spaza or tuck shops needs to close by 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night, because it's very high risk when you go to those tuck shops, even in broad daylight. It is so scary on the streets of Mitchell's Plain, because during broad daylight people are being shot like Sunday. While we're at the motorcade during the area to raise awareness about gun violence by the different communities in Mitchell's Plain. While we are on our way through the streets, 2 people were gunned down in Cadillac Street in Beacon Valley in broad daylight, just before 3 o'clock in the afternoon, while the police was also in the area. So you can see these brazen attacks and these targeted attacks, and sometimes indiscriminately, is creating fear and hate on the streets of Spain, and it can no longer be tolerated.
Do we know what has led to the surge in violence at the moment? I mean, there have been points where, not that the problem has ever really gone away, but it seems there's been a particular surge in the last few months. Do we know why?
What we have seen in Lentegeur, because one gang member, gang leader's son was shot, then there was a retaliation. But what is of particular concern and what is fueling this is the availability of guns on our streets. And it seems like they're just giving as part of the initiation to these youngsters to go out and shoot, so they're being given a gun. So it's a very volatile situation. There's no particular reason at the moment why gangs go on like that, but we know originally it is about turf, it's about the revenge, but clearly the situation on the ground is out of hand. There's too many guns on our streets. What I can say is for the last 4 days, 4 guns has been recovered in the police precinct. But that is not enough. We need to do more. And what is of particular concern also is when the police do act against these gangsters, then the community retaliates them. And so it's clearly a situation where we are saying to our communities, this is not on. We need to work with the police, irrespective of the current failures. We need to work with the police. And what is also of concern is when there's a killing in broad daylight, people must have seen, but they don't come forward. Maybe they're fearing for their lives, but witnesses don't come forward. So we are asking government to increase the amount of people that giving tip-offs, to increase that amount so that people can come forward and we get the guns off the street.
So you are calling for a number of measures to be implemented to, really stem the tide of gang violence in the area. The deployment of SANDF troops is one of them. Talk to me about that, as well as the other proposals that you are making.
Just yesterday we had the stakeholder meeting. The provincial board has called some of the CPFs together, Kailitsa, Mitchells Plain, Lentegeur, Nova Park, Philippi. All of those areas affected by gun violence, even peaceable labors. And we had a number of deliberations over the weekend. We had a multi-stakeholder engagement where the provincial board chairperson was present. And a number of focus areas was identified, including young people. We're talking about young people, and young people are the ones that is being gunned down. So that is one of the particular focus. Also the issue of corruption, and then also we as the Mitchells Plain community has been calling for the intervention like the deployment of the South African National Defence Force, because that can act as a stabilizing force. And we did call for a commission of at the province view. The provincial board feel that there's no need for a commission of inquiry now at the moment, because they had one in Kailitsa, and those interventions of Kailitsa and the recommendations hasn't even been implemented. So are we just going for commissions of inquiry, and nothing being done? What I can also say as part of Mitchells Plain community, we are having a peace march on Sunday, which is a multi-stakeholder march across So we are urging the community to come out on Sunday, which will be led by community leaders and religious leaders.
Yeah, all right. I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That's Michael Jacobs of the Lentegeur Community Policing Forum, where he is chairperson. I've got to apologize. The line there sometimes not holding firm, but I think we got enough out of that conversation and the expression of concern around issues of gang violence in areas around Mitchells Plain and the broader Cape Flats area.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. We start east of Joburg, Ekurhuleni. If you use Isando Road, Barber Road, Elandsfontein area, something's gone wrong there this morning. There's some heavy standstill traffic and possible diversion. So if you're moving between sort of Germiston and Kempton Park, just move away from Barber Road, Isando. Take alternative routes to avoid that. Pretty heavy queuing traffic again this morning. Germiston, Alberton on the N3 up to Van Buren. Looks like an issue just north of the Heldenace interchange. Mike 1 from Boyson's up to Parktown's fairly slow. That's going north-southbound. There's a backlog coming through Buccleuch all the way down to Marlborough Drive, and a bit of pressure on the M1 North into William Mandela this morning. Traffic backlogging beyond Malabongwe Drive already. Durban, a breakdown into South. In fact, there are two. Breakdown just after Queen Nandi Drive. Another breakdown going into Spaghetti Junction this morning. Stationary truck south of Market Road on the N3. So if you're leaving Pietermaritzburg, there's a queue and a half there. And Cape Town, Bosmansdam Road, early queues going in towards Montague Gardens. It's an issue just around Summer green. So coming through from Edgemead, it's heavy, and that's having a really big impact. Trying to get off the N7 into Bosmansdown. The N7 queues from Goodwood already, and the broken down vehicle N2 inbound at Lisbeck Parkway is being cleared. Traffic heading into Hospital Bend remains busy along that N2 corridor, and some real pressure out of Mitchell's Plain this morning. M7 north to Samora Michelle. Behind that, the R300 coming out of Mitchell's Plain into the M7. That's also jammed as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The Twiga Stars want to impress the Tanzanians with maximum points, while Banyana Banyana won nothing but a win as a reminder that they are the continental champions. This is the Group C clash of the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the glittering clash between Tanzania and South Africa on Friday 11 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and S3. Also available on SABC radio stations at 9 p.m. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
We are woven into the same soil that shapes South Africa. Its dreams, its energy, its promise. These guide us. Together, we've built progress hand in hand, from the mines to bustling main streets, from one generation to the next. With communities, government, and partners, every initiative from healthcare to education, youth empowerment to entrepreneurship lights the way forward. Because we don't just mine minerals, we mine possibility and progress with purpose. Together, we're shaping what's next, mining potential, building beyond. Anglo-American.
My name is Amukhelang Mutau, Banyana midfielder. What I love about SABC Sport, you guys have managed to capture women's football stories, because I think documentation is important.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
5 minutes to 7 on this Thursday. Let's turn to that story, the big story really of the week. The South African Human Rights Commission has expressed deep concern over serious allegations of corruption and political interference within the South African Police Service. This follows, of course, a public media briefing by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, held on Sunday, the 6th of July. The claims raise urgent questions about the SAPS's ability to function independently and uphold the rule of law. Let's speak to Reverend Chris Nissen, who is chairperson of the South African Human Rights Commission. Good morning to you, chairperson, and thank you for your time. So I was making the point earlier on that you are not known as a commission for stepping in areas that are not obviously, blatantly within your line of march. Not saying that this is not, but usually we expect you to be speaking out where the issues of human rights are clear and direct. But you've taken this step that I would say you don't take easily. Tell me why you felt you needed to come out and be heard on this particular issue.
No, good morning to you and good morning to the listeners, and thank you for inviting the Commission to partake in this cause. The first thing is that the Human Rights Commission's mandate is to promote, protect, and monitor human rights in the Republic of South Africa. And per our Act, the safety of our people, and preventing crime, and making sure that our people can live in an environment that they know they can feel protected, because that's enshrined in the Constitution. So when this event unfolded, the Commission felt it was very important that we call for a swift and inquiry, and that doesn't take long, to make sure that we get to unearth all the reasons behind what's happening, and ensure that the community of South Africa, every citizen, is assured that we have a law enforcement agencies that ensure the combating and preventing of crime.
Which parts and which aspects of the allegations that were made by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi concern you the most and have a direct impact on the upholding of human rights?
Well, the allegations, which we obviously don't have, it's just from public what we've seen, what has been reported in the media, gives us grave concerns about how do we foster and build confidence and trust in law enforcement agencies that will ensure that the people of this country will have the comfort of knowing we have a police force or law enforcement agencies out there that ensures that we can be assured that we are protected.
And I understand that you've written to the president. Are you calling for a commission of inquiry? How will this assist the situation? We've had so many commissions of inquiry, and many South Africans will be saying we are fatigued. Here's a clear case that requires urgent investigation in a more direct manner as opposed to a commission of inquiry.
Well, we're not looking, our words were inquiry investigation. That's why we're calling it swift investigation. They said it was swift investigation, so it doesn't take months, it doesn't take a lot of money, it doesn't take years, but to go into there to instill into South African community that there is confidence and trust and assurance that we're not falling apart. And that's why we are saying it must be swift and with inquiry, with investigation, but it must happen in order for the nation to know that we do have law enforcement agencies that will create a space of assurance to say we are still there, we are there to police, we are there to combat crime, we are there to prevent crime, and we are there to catch the criminals, whoever they are, wherever they are.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That's Reverend Chris Nissen, who is the chairperson of the South African Human Rights Commission. Let's go straight to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
In our top stories, Parliament committees given 14 days to probe Mkhwanazi's allegations, and Brazil responds to Trump's 50% tariff. Good morning. Parliament has given 3 portfolio committees tasked with investigating KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's allegations against Police Minister Senzo Mchunu 14 days in which to conclude their work. The Portfolio Committee on Police, Justice as well as Constitutional Development and the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence will investigate the allegations. Mkhwanazi alleged that senior police officials, including Mchunu, are corrupt, have links with criminal syndicates and interfere with police operations. National Assembly Speaker Toko Didiza says the committees will report back to the House with their findings and recommendations.
We have given the committees 14 days to consider the matter, make their assessment, and then come to the National Assembly with recommendations on how, as Parliament, we must address these issues. Our role as Parliament is that of oversight and ensuring that we hold the executive to account as well as lawmaking. So it is important that when matters such as this that relate to the functions that we do in the various committees, we must be able to understand further as to what are these challenges and how do they impact on our country.
Meanwhile, the DA is set to lay criminal charges against Mchunu at the Cape Town Central Police Station today. The DA has accused the Minister of misleading Parliament after he told Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Police earlier this year that he did not know Northwest-based businessman Brown Mokgotsi. Mchunu says the businessman, who's an alleged criminal syndicate member, is his comrade, not an associate. Health Minister Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi says he supports Action SA's call for government to make it mandatory for public officials to use public hospitals. Action SA MP and health expert Dr. Hosili Tlape says implementing such a policy would improve the delivery of basic services and the condition of public health care facilities. Motsoaledi also says the funds utilised for medical aid subsidies should be redirected to his department's budget for essential services and maintenance.
Everybody who gets their salary from the fiscus, that means from the public service, they are entitled to subsidies on their medical aid to use private hospitals. And that subsidy is 70 billion rand, starting with the president to the lowest public servant. They are all subsidized for 70 billion. If there's a policy that they must all use public hospitals, that 70 billion will immediately accrue to the public hospitals and will be able to improve them.
Free State ANC chairperson Mxolisi Dukwana has described the late former Deputy President David Mabuza as a selfless leader. Dukwana and fellow ANC members yesterday visited Mabuza's family in Barberton, Mpumalanga, to convey their condolences. Mabuza died a week ago at the age of 64. Dukwana says Mabuza was a unifying figure in the ANC.
We remember him as a Free State, especially during the very difficult elections in 2024. He played a very pivotal role for the organization. He was there. He supported us with all sources and his time, and we are therefore very, very grateful for his contribution, but also learning from everything that he did in his way in making sure that the ANC is united, and this is what we are thriving for as an organization. It's not easy, but we are working very hard to make sure that we keep the ANC united and we keep the ANC doing what it's supposed to be doing.
And finally, Brazil's President Lula da Silva has hit back at his US counterpart Donald Trump for announcing 50% tariffs on Brazilian exports to America. Lula, who recently presided over a BRICS Leaders Summit in Rio de Janeiro, responded to Trump's action by posting a letter to him on social media. Trump is also against the trial of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, who allegedly had sought to remain in power after losing the 2022 presidential election to Lula. Showan Bryce Peace reports.
Trump's letter posted to Truth Social said the treatment of Bolsonaro was an international disgrace, calling his trial a witch hunt that should not be taking place, echoing his judicial woes before winning last November's election, which squashed his own legal peril. Trump indicated that the 50% tariff was linked to what he called Brazil's insidious attacks on free elections and censorship orders against American social media companies. President Lula responded that Brazil was a sovereign nation with independent institutions and would not accept any form of tutelage, arguing that all companies operating in-country had to comply with Brazilian law.
Recapping the top story, Parliament has given 3 portfolio committees tasked with investigating KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's allegations against the Police Minister Senzo Mchunu 14 days in which to conclude their work. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
If you want to save on your car insurance premium, you call Outsurance, right? But what if you don't save? Well, they'll give you cash just for trying. You heard right. Just ask for 500 Rand cash. But wait, there's more. If you don't save and have been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years, you can ask them for 1,500 Rand cash. Savings or cash, you always get something out.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
In sports, PSG set up a Club World Cup final clash against Chelsea. Junior Box reach under-20 semi-finals and Djokovic to face Sinner in tantalizing semi-final. More details at 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Let's start on the Ekurhuleni side of Gauteng. Motorists that move between Germiston and Kempton Park that would normally use Barbara Road or Isando Road, you might want to steer away from that this morning. Looks like something's gone terribly wrong around the Ilonsfontein area. There's a really big delay south on Isando, northbound on Barbara coming up from the sort of N12 bridge. Just stay away from that one. The N3 north is heavy queuing up into the Heldenays interchange. Mike 1, Boyson Street to Parktown is under pressure. And the Mike 1 coming south is slow today from Buccleuch down through Woodmead, down towards Marlborough Drive. The N1 through Midrand looking lighter than you might expect this morning. That's some good news. Durban, the breakdowns between Queen Nundy Drive and Spaghetti Junction running south. They've all been cleared. We still have the breakdown coming out of Pietermaritzburg just after Market Road. So quite a backlog leaving Pietermaritzburg, heading towards Ashburton and Durban. And Cape Town, issues on the Bosmansdam Road this morning, getting from Edgemead across the N7 down through Summer Greens. Behind that, the N7 is queuing heavily early. Big backlogs from Goodwood up towards that Bosmansdam off-ramp. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes after 7 on this Thursday. It's great to be in your company. Welcome to it, the second hour of the Morning Brief. And there's really one major story that we are covering in this hour. It is various takes on that story following the revelations and allegations made by the SAPS's Provincial Commissioner in KwaZulu-Natal, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. As I was saying earlier on, yesterday we heard from the National Police Commissioner and there were a few comments that he made without committing too much, right? He was non-committal on the main allegations, but he did say that he doesn't know the reasons why the political killings task team was closed down. Then he distanced himself in a way by saying that there's no letter that's disbanding that task team that was signed by me. You will not find a letter coming from me. And of course, we know the letter that said it must be disbanded and wound down. It came from the police minister, Senzo Mchunu, on the 31st of December last year. So that's one aspect. But at the same time, there was a lot of progress that had come out that came out from Parliament in terms of trying to get to the bottom of the issues. This as we continue to wait for a signal from President Cyril Ramaphosa as to what his approach will be in terms of, the political leadership of the policing department, as well as just safeguarding the integrity of the SAPS. So we'll be talking to various players in this hour. Gareth Newham from the Institute for Security Studies will be first up in that conversation, and then followed by the chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development, Xola Nqola, immediately after Gareth Newham. That's coming up within this half hour. And then, of course, a bit later on, I did flag that we will have a conversation around the death of 4 initiates in the OR Tambo District Municipality in the Eastern Cape in this winter initiation season. You will know that we covered this story a few weeks ago, in fact about 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about the measures that various authorities were trying to take to ensure that there are no deaths. The whole campaign was Mabaye Bepila, Babuye Bepila, if I remember correctly, to ensure that the initiates come back alive. No one dies during this sacred rite of passage. But it has happened in the Eastern Cape, in the OR Tambo district. So we'll speak to the mayor of that district, Thandekile Sabisa, at about 10 to 8 this morning. Do weigh in on these and other conversations. I do see all of your messages coming in, reflecting on what we've covered thus far. Please continue to do that by calling me on 086 000 2032 or sending me a WhatsApp voice note on 061 410 4107. So let's get started then with the second hour of the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief.
30 years ago, a moment united a nation. From Ellis Park to every township and village, we stood together. One people, one dream, one victory. Now, the vibration rises again. From the heart of Mzansi to every corner of the country. The 4-time world champions, the mighty Springboks, take on the Azuri in a clash where history meets destiny. This is more than a match. It's a country moment. Only on SABC. Celebrate the 30th anniversary of our 1995 Rugby World Cup victory. Watch South Africa versus Italy. Saturday, 12 July at 4 p.m. Live on SABC2 and streaming on SABC+. Also available on SABC radio stations at 5 p.m. Download the SABC Plus app now. Switch, stream, no subscription. SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Eagles of Carthage and the Phoenix both believe they are the queens of North Africa. Who are the real queens of the North? This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations, Morocco 2024. Catch the spectacular battle between Tunisia and Algeria this Thursday, 10 July at 6 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3, and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SABC Sport brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about the Springboks, telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. Starting on the 13th of July at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2, tune in every Sunday for the highs, the heartache, the heroics that made rugby history. Stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime, anywhere. No subscription needed. Don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So the more we peel at this onion, that is the allegations made by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, the more we find that there are more layers to peel at it. The allegations, of course, are about collusion between, on the one hand, the police's top political and institutional leadership, and on the other hand, criminal syndicates. As Mkhwanazi's boss, National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola, made it clear that the provincial commissioner will face no persecution from him, and that he, Masemola, played no part in authorizing the closure of the political killings task team. Parliament, on the other hand, made its first move in the effort to really get to the bottom of the allegations. Speaker Togo Didiza announcing that 3 committees of Parliament will probe the matter. So let's start this conversation in this hour with Gareth Newham, who is Head of Justice and Violence Prevention at the Institute for Security Studies. Good morning to you, Gareth, and thank you for your time this morning. So let's start with the institutional leadership. So a lot of moving parts within the leadership of the SAPS, and I would say instability, really, and a sense of a lack of cohesion. The political leader is under pressure, that is the Minister Senzo Mchunu, but you then hearing the squabbling between leaders of various divisions. And then yesterday we heard the voice of the ultimate leader in the National Police Commissioner. What's your reading of the impact of these allegations and how they are being treated in terms of the cohesion and effectiveness of the SAPS at the moment?
Good morning to you and your listeners. This lack of cohesion, this fragmentation of the top leadership in the South African Police Service has been going on for many years. This is just the latest manifestation of that. As far back as 2012, the National Development Plan warned that there was a serial crisis of top management in the police, and that needed to be addressed urgently, and it put forward a number of recommendations on how to do that. Unfortunately, none of those recommendations were ever implemented, and the crisis continued. We continued throughout to the mid-2000s, 13s and 14s, to see this crisis manifest in different ways. The Marikana Commission inquiry, with top leadership who found not to be completely truthful what happened there. With the Khaya Commission inquiry, looking at the breakdown of community-police relations, and it showed a whole lot of problems in the police leadership then. We had a panel of experts following that, found the same thing. And so this is just really an ongoing crisis. It's not new. It's just this is the latest and probably the most unprecedented manifestation of this crisis. And it all stems from the root cause, which is the high levels of politicization of the top leadership of the South African Police Service. This doesn't mean that there are not many excellent professional generals, brigadiers doing their best under difficult circumstances. It just means that when the Commissioner of Police and the Minister of Police are both appointed by the President, and they see themselves as having primarily loyalty to the president, say, they start appointing people below them, and then that level of politicization starts to take root. This is not something that has happened in this current administration. It started long before. So it is an ongoing problem, and hopefully this high level, this high public profile of this problem will lead to it finally being addressed.
Talking about politicization, is there something in the environment, in the policing stream of our democratic dispensation that lends itself to networks outside of the state? So be they criminal syndicates, but also with political links, people who donate to the ANC and other political parties in exchange or in expectation that they will benefit through some kind of, procurement processes and the likes. And that's part of the elements that are at play in this particular story. Is there something in the environment that makes it easy for players at the top leadership to be ensnared and entangled in that kind of way?
Yes, there certainly is, and that is that there's not enough rigorous accountability. And we're talking about going back to Jackie Selebe. He was eventually convicted for corruption because he received payments and gratuities from Glenn Yaklioti, which is part of a transnational drug syndicate. So that's going back to the sort of late 2000s. And so that shows that already was happening then. And since then, until today, there's not been a proper process to ensure that your top leadership are thoroughly vetted. We keep on hearing about key people in key positions in crime intelligence are not vetted. We saw the appointment of Richard Bluley, who was finally convicted for various violent crimes, including kidnapping, and is now facing corruption charges. How he wrote a letter to then former President Jacob Zuma saying that he will use his powers in the interest of Jacob Zuma to win the next ANC conference election if he's supported. That was reported widely at the time. And we can go on. Now, the latest revelations are, again, people involved in criminal syndicates, funding ANC-aligned people and so forth. So this is, again, it's not new. It's just a continuation of an ongoing problem that has never been addressed. So until we get to a situation where the police are completely depoliticized, and that means that you have rigorous, merit-based and transparent processes for appointing your top leadership, that's all the generals and all the lieutenant generals, all the major generals, all the brigadiers, and that they're overseen by an independent professional body to make sure that only people who are completely dedicated to improving policing and supporting the Constitution ever occupy any post in the police, this problem will continue.
Lastly then, are you any clearer as to where the fault lines are? And I'm asking you to really comment on what was said yesterday by the National Police Commissioner. I've been making the point that, in my reading at least, he was saying a lot without saying much. He didn't want to be committal in terms of going to the level of detail of Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. But you could tell that, for instance, when he was asked about the closure of the political killings task team and the reason therefore, he said, I don't know what the reason is, but after the arrest of this Vusumuzi Ket Matlala, we now know what the reasons are. And in a way, alluding without being direct to what Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi said. But in a way, it's my long way of asking you, Gareth, what's your reading of where the fault lines are in terms of that top leadership of the police at the moment?
So the one thing I've learned after watching police politics for the last 3 decades is that there's always a lot more behind what we see in public.
Yeah.
And I would say that is why it's so critically important for the president, who's the only person who can really deal with this problem because he appoints both the minister and the national commissioner and has influence over who the provincial commissioners are, is that he, as a matter of urgency, establish a task team overseen by potentially a retired judge with expertise from departments outside of the police that haven't been embroiled in this. There are many investigators and prosecutors and lawyers who could assist with this, to rigorously assess all the claims made and evidence behind that. And then within, I'd say, a couple of weeks, because the longer this drags on for, the more damage it's going to do to the police and the ability to stay focused at the top levels, give him recommendations. So I would sort of caution towards people jumping to conclusions based on what we see in the media, because I think there's a lot more going on than we are privy to, and we need a proper investigation to find out what's going on there.
Yeah, all right. Got to thank you for your time and your insights. That's Gareth Newham, who is Head of Justice and Violence Prevention at the Institute for Security Studies. Listening to that conversation is Xola Ngola, who is Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. So the Speaker has decided that you should use your mandate as the various committees. It's wide enough to allow you to act on this. Tell me what you understand to be the marching orders and the line of march from the Speaker in terms of the three committees that will be involved.
Thank you very much. Thulas, remember immediately after the press briefing by General Mukwana, the Speaker has received a lot of letters requesting a debate on the matter. So upon assessment of that request, the Speaker felt like what will the debate do in accusations whose veracity has not been tested?
Mm-hmm.
Now, he went further to assess what has been said. I will recall that in what has been said by General Mukwana, he mentioned the conduct of police, he mentioned the conduct of magistrate judges and members of the IDEC, which resides within the NPA. He mentioned the conduct of the crime intelligence. So the Speaker is, according to the portfolio committees, that, okay, it covers three committees. So the best way to deal with this is that the committees whose mandate is affected by what has been alleged must do their working first and advise Parliament it takes to delve deep to the matter. We've been given a mandate to look into the matter in a form of a joint committee arrangement, which is sitting next week, and report to the National Assembly before the 23rd day of July 2025. So the mandate is that let's look into what has been alleged and advise Parliament what form should it take in terms of diving deeper to the issue.
And I know that you are yet to finalize and settle on the form of how you're going to conduct this work, but I can't imagine that it would not involve you using the powers that you have where they are needed. Are we looking at a fully fledged parliamentary inquiry with powers of, summoning witnesses to come and testify, people inside and outside of the state?
Well, it's one of the possibilities we can rule out, but at this point, we have not yet set as the joint committee to make a final determination into that matter. But it's one of the issues that we are going to look at, that does the allegations in their current form warrant us to open a fully fledged parliamentary inquiry into the matter. Because we'll remember that the matter actually involves a deep-seated alleged capture of the South African police service system and the crime intelligence of the country. So it's a very, very deep-seated matter and involved matter that we are going to look amongst the options. Is that option, and I'm sure you would have heard some of the political parties already calling for such an inquiry. We're going to look at it. We're going to discuss that matter extensively and look into all the various options and make a determination and advise Parliament.
Lastly, the sense I've been getting from all the conversations we've been having in the last few days is that such is the gravity of these allegations and their implications for national security and the stability, really, of the state, that we can't afford to have a business as usual approach. How do you assure South Africans this morning that the work that you do will not be business as usual, that you will be rigorous in your investigations, tough where you need to be in terms of demanding accountability and answers, but importantly, that you will be efficient in that the answers to the questions we all have will come and come timelessly?
Most definitely, because the matter at hand, if not properly attended, it may lead to unintended consequences. And Parliament is prioritizing it, and we are given only a few days to attend to the matter and advised Parliament. We are going to go deeper to the issues. We are going to go to an extent of trying to test the veracity of what would have not been said, but what would have been an implication to what General Mkhwanazi was saying. And we assure South Africans that consequence management will definitely follow immediately after we have determined the form and the shape of how Parliament must deal with the matter.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That's Xola Ngola, who is chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development, one of the three committees, the other being the Committee on Police, as well as the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, which will work, with that separately on its own. So that's the three committees that are charged with getting us the answers we so deserve.
Botswana is in high spirits to stop the West Africans. However, the Super Falcons want to illustrate why they are 9-time African champions. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the superb clash between Botswana and Nigeria this Thursday, 10 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3, where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Wayne, for you, what is the real deal?
For me, it's really customer service. It's getting my money's worth. So if I phone Outsurance and I've got a problem, they're always there.
So it's not just we've got your money, now off you go.
No, money is not the biggest deal for me. It's service. Just phone Outsurance, get a quote and see what they can offer you. If you don't save that 321 like I did, you might get a 500 or $1,000 back. Service and savings, you'll always get something out.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. What does you always get something out mean to you, Lorette?
Outsurance made it possible for us to live our dream to travel more with the money in our pocket that we save.
Let me know, what is it?
725. It was unbelievable. My husband, he sits there on the chair and he's just nodding his head and say, yes. This is really not just an advertisement. This is really real.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
In sports this hour, Real Madrid have crashed out of the Club World Cup after losing 4-0 to Paris Saint-Germain last night. Two mistakes by Asensio and Rodrigo led to Madrid's collapse. Fabian Ruiz scored a brace and Ousmane Dembele and Gonzalo Ramos scored a goal each to help PSG march on to the final to face Chelsea. Here's Madrid coach Xavi Alonso.
This afternoon.
Yeah, for sure. At the beginning, the setback was strong enough with the 2-0 down. We knew that the task was really tough to play against Paris, being 2-0 down after 10 minutes. But today and at the moment the feeling is not the best. But we'll have to try to learn from today. For sure, they are a team that they have already built in 2 years. We are just starting, so it will take time. But we will have to learn from today. And for sure, the feeling at the moment is not the same, the best.
Still staying with football, Orlando Pirates have confirmed that Munapule Saleng is on loan to newly promoted Betway Premiership side Orbit College for the 2025-26 season. Saleng has not played for Pirates since the 7th of December, and his representatives released a statement in February where they cited significant issues at the core of the employer-employee relationship. In rugby, the junior Springboks recorded their third straight bonus point victory in the pool phase of the World Rugby Under-20 Championship as they beat Scotland by 73-14. Now, the win brought 11 outstanding tries, with winger Jack Williams bagging a brace alongside Sianu Everson. South Africa will play Argentina next in the semis. In motorsport, Christian Horner has admitted that his sacking as Red Bull team principal has come as a shock. The 51-year-old was informed of his dismissal. This is after 20 years in charge, but was given the opportunity to address his former employees at Red Bull's UK base. Finally, in tennis, Novak Djokovic set up a mouth-watering Wimbledon semi-final clash against world number one Yannick Sinner. This is after beating Flavio Cobolli 6-7, 6-2, 7-5 and 6-4, while in the women's draw, five-time Grand Slam winner Iga Swiatek and former Olympic champion Belinda Bencic both reached the semi-finals for the first time and will clash for a place in the final. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, Action SA will today lead a protest outside the KwaZulu-Natal Police Headquarters in Durban to demand urgent action on the deepening crisis in the criminal justice system. The Tsegofatso Pule Foundation has expressed outrage over the decision by the Roodepoort Magistrates Court in Johannesburg to grant bail to the man accused of the murder of 14-year-old Lukona Fose. And the Free State ANC chairperson Umxolisi Dukwana has described the late former Deputy President David Mabuza as a selfless leader. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Quite a backlog coming out of Midrand on your way to Joburg this morning. Queuing pressure currently between Allendale Road and an issue just before the Marlborough Drive exit. If you're on your way to Sandton, it's heavy. Also, just a reminder that there's an issue on the Barber Road slash Isando Road, Elandsfontein area. So if you move between sort of Croydon, Kempton Park and Germiston, very slow. You may want to just reroute around that to save yourself some time. Staying east, Atlas Road at the N12. There's no traffic lights there across the bridge. That's all heavily backed up. And the run through Midrand, well, it's taken a while into school holidays for things to sort of ease, but it's not too bad this morning. Midrand will, at this stage, surprise you how clear that's running, actually. Durban N2 queued up to the roadworks, moving through Spaghetti Junction up towards Westwood Mall. Southbound looking okay now. All the breakdowns are being cleared. Coming out of Pietermaritzburg, a broken down truck after Market Road. That's heavy queues back towards New England Road. And don't forget, overnight this weekend, Saturday, northbound, 9 p.m. until 5 a.m. Sunday, 9 p.m. until 5 a.m. Monday, Durban-bound carriageway will be closed. Separate directions, separate nights. You'll be diverted locally via the ramps overnight Saturday going into Pietermaritzburg. But on Sunday night to Monday morning, you'll be coming out of Pietermaritzburg and having to divert at Market Road, go down the R103 and come back on at Ashburton. So that's another weekend of disruption around the big N3 upgrade. Cape Town, heavy pressure this morning on the N7 north to Bosman's Dam Road. Queues back as far as Voortrekker Road, and a crash and a broken down truck on Plattekloof Hill. Quite a heavy backlog on your way out towards Belleville. Oh, coming out of Mitchell's Plain as well, some really heavy traffic. It's a broken down truck on the M7 northbound at Samora Michelle. So the M7's badly backed up, and the R300 coming through from Stock Road to get into that M7. Some very heavy backlogging there as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning once again to Ndawuleng Lechela. Ndawuleng, in this hour, let's focus on all things tech, right? Let's start with this one. OpenAI is the one behind ChatGPT, right? And it's is it Sam Altman who leads it?
Yes, it is.
All right. Let's talk about their plans. I didn't know that launching a web browser would still be a thing in 2025. Isn't it that now we go directly to an app, social media, etc., more than we go to web browsers? Tell me why they're pursuing this.
So it seems like they're gunning for Google's ad revenue, because Google gets quite a lot of ad revenue from its browser Chrome, right? So they are on the verge of launching their own AI-powered web browser. This move, of course, could pressure Google's ad business, which heavily relies on Chrome for user information and search traffic. The browser's key features include AI-powered browsing, a native chat interface similar to ChatGPT, and integration with OpenAI's AI agent products like Operator. The group says these features will allow users to interact with websites more efficiently, potentially reducing the need to click through the external sites. With Operator integration, the browser can perform tasks on your behalf, such as making reservations or filling out forms directly within websites. Now, OpenAI's strategy involves weaving its services into daily life, collecting user data to improve its AI models, and forming partnerships with companies like Apple and Samsung. And so that seems like what it's trying to sell in terms of getting that revenue and taking on Google head on.
And then this next one has a name of an entity that I think you put in there just to test me. And I'm going to shame you now, and I'm going to say it properly, right? Listen carefully. Essilor-Luxottica. What's that?
Yes,
What's that about?
You got it.
I had to pause.
You have to say it slowly.
Slowly. Tell me about Meta and them acquiring Essilor-Luxottica.
So listen, I can't even say it now. So Essilor-Luxottica is the parent company of Ray-Ban and glasses like Oakley and
really?
Yes. So according to reports, Meta has acquired 3% stake in the company for about $3.5 billion. And this strategic investors boost Meta's presence in the AI-powered wearable technology sector, particularly when it comes to smart glasses. The deal could potentially increase Meta's stake to 5% over time, indicating a long-term commitment to the partnership. Now, the two companies have been partners since 2019, producing 2 generations of Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses. The second generation model, released in 2023, features Meta AI voice assistant, allowing users to identify city landmarks, get recipes, and send voice messages on WhatsApp and Messenger. I don't know about wearing these, smart glasses and all that information coming through while you're just walking on the street.
Information overload, eh? Information overload.
Yeah.
It's pervasive.
Yeah, so the companies so far have sold 2 million pairs of the Meta Ray-Ban glasses since late 2023 and plan to increase annual production to 10 million units by the end of 2026.
All of these moves being done by OpenAI, Meta, while xAI's Grok bot is busy being a Nazi. Anyway,
let's not even go there.
Asikho lapho. How are the markets looking?
So D-Day has come and gone, and the only deals the US have sealed are 2 trade deals with the UK and Vietnam, and a truce regarding a framework with China. A deal with Japan proving to be difficult, and that weighing on markets, Asian markets in particular, and the Nikkei leading the losses there, down 0.64%. Over in Wall Street, futures are in the red. Investors there digesting yesterday's Fed minutes. And then back at home, trade choppy. Local markets closing mixed, with the all share ending yesterday's session flat, shedding 0.03%. Looking at the currency scene, the rand holding its own, and this despite a slightly stronger dollar. It is sitting at 17.80 to the greenback this hour.
All right, Ndauling, thank you for that. We'll talk to you in the third hour of the show just after 8:30.
I'm Shakira O'Malley and I'm a centre back. What I like so much about living in South Africa is the beaches. So being able to go to the beach and just relax and just let go of literally everything. I had a good laugh this morning at breakfast. I think we were all just having a conversation. Everybody was interacting. If I won $1 million after a good game, I'd definitely not tell my teammates. Definitely not. I'm taking that $1 million and going home. Tune in to SABC Sport to watch Banyana compete at the AFCON and defend another title.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me read 1 or 2 messages that have come through on the WhatsApp line. I'll start with this one. It says, remember, the same minister we are talking about is the same one that went and lied to South Africans with regard to the Kwekwe matter I think it's time that that case is brought back to investigation desk again. So that person there not signing off, but just weighing in, and of course with allusion to Minister Senzo Mchunu and how that matter was handled out of Matatiele. And then someone else says here, this is Gigi from Daung, who says, did you notice every time the Israeli Prime Minister visits America, the following week, America is on top of South Africa with threats? That's an interesting observation, and a lot of people have said that whatever hold the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has on Donald Trump, basically it's really a stronghold. But I don't know, with this time around with the tariffs, it's widespread. It's not just South Africa. It's basically followed through on what started in April. We were told that these tariffs were coming. Then we were told that there was going to be a 90-day pause. Then now that 90 days is over, but you are right, we were among the first 14 countries to receive the letters. Since then, more countries have received. And in fact, I was hearing this morning the talk about what's happening with Brazil and how, Trump wrote a letter and is saying that Brazil is ill-treating its former president, Jair Bolsonaro, and America will not stand by and watch it unfold, and therefore 50% tariffs. And kuningi man, it's a lot. Let me take a call from Khotso in Midrand. Good morning to you, Khotso. You want to talk to me about Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi?
Yeah, no, not Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi per se, but
that situation.
The international drug lords and mafia syndicates which are operating within the country, whereby you see the calls which you're getting from the Western Cape.
Yeah,
this is an outcry throughout the country. It's just in Western Cape, it's highly pervasive, whereby it's out of hand. No one is helping. Have you seen the communities, the society in South Africa? They are crying all over in the hands of this corrupt ruling party. It seems no one cares. No one doesn't care. No one cares here. Everyone is caring about his own political survival. What about the community on the ground? At the hands of these mafia syndicates, which are, look, Thulasizwe. Here in South Africa, you are having South American mafia syndicates, Brazilian drug lords, Nigerian drug lords, Shanghaian drug lords are here operating. No one seems to care. Everyone is about himself, about his political survival. So what's happening? Where to from here now?
Sobering thoughts, Khotso. Sobering thoughts, and you've got my attention. I can tell you that, because when you mention South American syndicates, once they get a foothold, and I keep saying this, those syndicates coming out of South America, and there've been one or two reports of people being linked to those. If they get a foothold in this country, my goodness, there's no exaggerating the kind of impact we would suffer. This laissez-faire, lackadaisical approach that says we'll get to it when we get to it just won't cut it. It just won't cut it. We won't have a country to speak of.
Yeah, I know. Enough is enough, Baba. Enough is enough. Look what's happening in KZN. Those young boys, the moment they take those drugs, they don't fear no one. They don't fear anything. They just go on rampage. They kill. You will think there's a spell or there's some kind of satanism which is there. These are the level of the kind of drugs which are in the community.
All right.
But no one seems to care.
Let's leave it there. Thank you. That's Khotso in Midrand. Let me go on over to, let me take a call from Mxolisi in Soweto. Good morning to Mxolisi.
Hi. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you, Baba? Please go ahead.
Good. Thanks. Yeah, I know. A quick one. I was just saying, because there's been a talk of the national dialogue. I think Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has given us something to talk about.
The dialogue is on.
Yeah. The allegations are so serious. I mean, the person you spoke to from Parliament was talking about 3 committees that are going to look into this. And it's a hot topic. So bring the national dialogue, bring it on, and Mr. Lieutenant Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi given us something to talk about. Yeah,
how would you frame it in the national dialogue? What would be the question that you would want to be tackled that you say has been highlighted by the allegations? Like, I'm trying to say, Mxolisi, so that we don't end up with a national dialogue where we are discussing an issue that's happening now, instantaneous, but we are talking about something that is at a systems level. What does it highlight for you?
I'm going to say what you said at the start of this hour. You said police integrity. So I thought that was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Mxolisi, thank you for your call this morning. That's Mxolisi in Soweto. Let me go to John in the Johannesburg CBD. Good morning, John.
Morning, Thulasizwe Simelane. How are you?
Very well. How are you? Hey, what you full naming me, manje, Baba. I feel like I'm in trouble now. Eh?
No.
Thulasizwe Simelane. What did I do?
you can't be in trouble. You're from my province.
Okay, I'm safe.
Yeah, yes.
Please go ahead.
I'm Thulas, I know you're one of the best broadcasters. I'm so
thank you.
Grateful for that. You, Sakina, and I think Utepiso. Utepiso is not coming from around Middelburg, Tepiso Makwetla.
Yeah,
or like is related to.
She is from Mpumalanga, yes. She has roots in Mpumalanga. Let me put it that way.
The three of you guys were one of my favorites. Yeah. So Thulasizwe, when you go home, please go and read the Sunday World.
Mm-hmm.
I think of yesterday. This one is not the allegation. Go and read the I think there is a statement which is made by Absalom Zungu.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is the father of Constable Eskumbuzo Zungu. Kininda, that is saying, is the main man who made a breakthrough, a breakthrough for him.
Yeah.
To to arrest Muzusibia and Bongani Ntazi. And there's and phone either the spokesperson of KZN or the police station of Newcastle, where the statement is made there by Colonel Sajwayo.
Okay.
You will get all the information.
All right.
That case that is running there to Pretoria High Court.
Yes, the Senzo Mayor case.
Yeah, it's a charade. That thing is just Inganewan, as
Yeah.
When we has Inganewan. That case is Inganewan. Go and read that one called Sunday World, and tomorrow you can just to give the information to all of us.
John,
so
thank you for that.
You can get what Mkhanas was saying about the police service members.
John, John, thank you for that. I'll look out for that. Did not really get a chance to indulge with the newspapers over the weekend, simply because, events overtook it. I was just getting into the newspapers when, shall we call it, all hell broke loose with that media briefing by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. In fact, it started out, we thought it was just going to be one of those, usual briefings. He's going to tell you about an operation in the south of KZN, and then this happened and that happened, only to see that there was nothing usual about that particular briefing. Pat in Katlehong, good morning to you.
Morning, how are you too?
I'm very well. I find what you want to talk about quite interesting and intriguing. What about the SA Mint company?
Yeah, when we are so exposed to stealing, misappropriation of funds and the rest, can we sit down and say the SA Mint is immune from that?
Sure.
That has been always my question. Really.
What triggers the question?
No, I always ask because cash is king. You can't trace cash.
Yeah.
Really, and then with with other transactions, at least we can always trace them and
yes.
See. But then with cash, maybe I still think maybe there's a cover up, or maybe there's maybe it's either all that information is hidden from society. I don't know. Maybe there could be those
Is it your sense that it's too quiet? That something might be going on and it's just too quiet?
And exactly, there's so much.
Sure.
There could be a lot of cover up.
Yo, Pat, you've gotten us thinking.
This requires an investigation, really.
Yeah.
Even if doesn't have an incident from that area, but then I think there should be an investigation with the SME.
All right. No, thank you for that, Pat. That's Pat in Katlehong, and perhaps what's worth doing is inviting SA Mint from time to time, companies like those that are not always in the spotlight, entities like those, let me call it that, and just focusing on them a little bit and perhaps asking some of the questions, because Pat is of the sense that it's too quiet. It's too quiet. Something could be going on. And I like the fact that he's not basing it on anything. He's not alleging anything. He's just saying that for all we know, a lot could be going on and we're just not focusing on entities like SA Mint.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's been a really good rundown through Midrand this morning. Volumes noticeably lighter on that bit between Brockfontein and New Road. Quite incredible just how light it is. But you will hit a wall of traffic further down. Allendale all the way down through to Woodmead Drive on your way out of Midrand towards Sandton. The N1 South onto the M1 very heavy. Roadwork starting to bite in terms of delays on the R21 South approaching the work zone. The Bupsfontein exit on your way to the airport. Make sure you've got some extra time to get through that. And the earlier issues around Ilansfontein on Barber Road and Isando have all been cleared up. Those really heavy backlogs there that side this morning, but it's a thing of the past. The Mike 1 M2 routes through the Crown, heavy all the way up to about Oxford Road in the Parktown area this morning. And if you're driving Pretoria, it's pretty open. The only standout queue there really the N4 inbound towards the N1 highway coming through from Watermeyer and the section of Linwood Road in the Menlo Park area closed. Linwood Road between the N1 highway and Atterbury, a section there all closed down. Durban side, things are moving along quite nicely as well. There is a power outage in the CBD. I thought I'd zoom in and see what impact that's having, but very light conditions there. The N2 onto the M4 Southern Freeway as you come up from Prospect, and that's a bit slow going on that link. And Cape Town side today, a crash and a breakdown on the outbound side of the M1 at Plattercliff Hill. That's a big queue right back through to Monte Vista. N7 North remains heavy from Goodwood to Bosmansdam Road, and there's a lot of traffic out of Mitchell's Plain this morning. A broken down truck on the M7 at Samora Michelle, queuing traffic on the M7 at Highlands Drive and the R300 almost from Stock Road. Big queues out towards the M7. You'd want to exit out of Mitchell's Plain, avoiding both of those routes. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Botswana is in high spirits to stop the West Africans. However, the Super Falcons want to illustrate why they are 9-time African champions. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the superb clash between Botswana and Nigeria this Thursday, 10 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3, where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So before I move on to the next story, I've got to share with you, based on what Pat was saying about SA Mint, that it's too quiet. We need to at least just ask, what's going on? What's going on? Is everything okay? Our technical producer, Zelma Klibi, says she likens it to if you've got a child, a toddler, and they're too quiet in a corner. For all you know, they've smeared Vaseline all over themselves. So I think that's the essence of what Pat was saying, that like the toddler sitting in a corner and there's no crying, there's no noise. What's really going on in that corner? For all you know, Vaseline has been smeared all over the body. Anyway, let's move on to this now. Tragedy in the Eastern Cape's OR Tambo district as 4 initiates have died, putting a blight on the 2025 winter initiation season. The initiation season is a time that is meant to mark the sacred passage into manhood, but instead has ended in profound loss for the families of the 4 initiates. The OR Tambo district municipality is lamenting the fact that these deaths have occurred despite many proactive, preventative and awareness measures that it says had been taken ahead of the winter initiation season. Let's speak to the mayor of the OR Tambo District Municipality, Thandegile Sabisa. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. Just share a bit more detail with us, because I think over the period of time we've come to know some of the main causes of death of initiates, such issues as dehydration, pneumonia and septicemia. Just tell us what we know about the deaths of these 4 initiates.
Good morning, sir. Good morning to the viewers. Just a correction. I'm the Deputy Executive Mayor of OR Tambo.
Sure.
Thulasizwe.
Yes.
Yes. Let me put on record that as OR Tambo District Municipality, working with all stakeholders, traditional leadership, NGOs, we have been on the ground since the past 2 seasons. The season of June 2024 summer season, and in all those seasons we were not lucky as OR Tambo. In June last year, the total of initiates that died were there were about 12, and summer season December 7, and then that made us as a district municipality to convene what we termed as the evaluation summit, which was held on the 3rd and 4th February 2025, where all stakeholders, traditional leadership, and all the interested parties were convened under one roof. And as the district, we identified that one of our weaknesses is a campaign where we are going to make sure that we meet with the communities, we meet with the boys in schools, and we did everything. But despite that, those efforts, but we're still experiencing the death of boys. Yes, indeed, currently, 4 of the initiates died, 1 in Hlonhlo municipality, 2 Nyanden municipality, 1 in Dinguza Hill municipality. And the 3 out of 4 were from illegal schools, 1 from legal school. Now, when we have been moving around, visiting those initiates, indeed, in the main, we find that dehydration is the main problem, and also the assessment which has not been done is also a cause, because part of what is a prerequisite is that all the boys that are going to attend the initiate, they have to be assessed, check their conditions, and then it is from that point where at least once the boy has been satisfied, and then the boy will be allowed to go to the initiation school. Yes, but we find that those measures have not been done before the boys, they go to the initiation schools.
I pick up a bit of frustration in your statement, and you mentioned the campaigns that you have undertaken, multi-sectoral, to try and get everyone's buy-in around the measures to be taken, such as those pre-assessments before the young man goes through this rite of passage. With that frustration, what more can be done? Is there room for more enforcement? Because you say 3 of these 4 boys were in illegal initiation schools.
Yes, part of the things that we think they are going to help us is to make sure that we engage with the police services, and make sure that people who are engaged or involved in these illegal schools, at least they face the mighty law. Because we find that there is a lot of reckless among our communities, and if the police service is not helping us, this strategy is going to continue, and continue engaging our communities, especially the communities who are in rural areas. These areas, at least, are far from us as a district. We think that those are the areas that we think we should focus more on them.
All right.
Because if we leave those people unattended, and then this problem will never move away. It will continue be like this.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Thandegile Sabisa, the Deputy Executive Mayor of the OR Tambo District Municipality. Let's go straight to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
In our top stories, Action SA to march in KwaZulu-Natal against crisis in the criminal justice system, and outrage over Forse murder accused granted bail. Good morning. Action SA will today lead a protest outside the KwaZulu-Natal Police Headquarters in Durban to demand urgent action on the deepening crisis in the criminal justice system. This follows Provincial Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's allegations that senior SAPS officials, including the Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, are corrupt, have ties with criminal syndicates and interfere in police operations. Party Provincial Leader Zwakele Ngwango has criticised the Speaker of the National Assembly, Toko Didiza, for assigning 3 portfolio committees to investigate the matter. He's adamant there is a strong case against the Police Minister.
I think the Speaker is also doing what normally does by ANC leadership to shield each other, protect each other. Because at the end of the day, that process she is recommending is not going to bear any fruit. And I think the President must be brave enough. There is enough information presented to suspend or remove the Minister. And more than that, the Minister was live in a portfolio committee where he denied knowing some of these individuals. And yesterday, he now admitted that actually he knows this person.
Parliament has given 3 portfolio committees tasked with investigating Mkhwanazi's allegations against the Police Minister 14 days in which to conclude their work. The portfolio committees on police, justice as well as constitutional development and the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence will investigate the allegations. National Assembly Speaker Toko Didiza says the committees will report back to the House with their findings and recommendations.
We have given the committees 14 days to consider the matter, make their assessment, and then come to the National Assembly with recommendations on how, as Parliament, we must address these issues. Our role as Parliament is that of oversight and ensuring that we hold the executive to account as well as lawmaking. So it is important that when matters such as this that relate to the functions that we do in the various committees, we must be able to understand further as to what are these challenges and how do they impact on our country.
The Tsegofatso Pule Foundation has expressed outrage over the Roodepoort Magistrate Court's decision to grant bail to Mduduzi Mnisi, who's accused of murdering 14-year-old Lukhona Forse. He appeared in court yesterday and was granted bail of 5,000 rand. Mnisi, who was on parole at the time, is alleged to have been seen with Forse in Durban Deep on the day she went missing in May. Her mutilated body was found the next day. The state claims premeditated murder, but Mnisi's defense argues there's no direct evidence linking him to the crime. The foundation spokesperson is Butlale Modisani.
5,000 rands is almost a spit in our faces, and the families especially, because I don't think him possibly just being able to be let go of and let free and attend possibly trial from outside, what it's going to do to the family, what it's going to do to the rest of the community then, especially because of the repeat offender. It just continues to show that there's a huge disregard for repeat offenders and there's no careful consideration.
Free State ANC chairperson Mxolisi Dukwana has described the late former Deputy President David Mabuza as a selfless leader. Dukwana and fellow ANC members yesterday visited Mabuza's family in Barberton and Mpumalanga to convey their condolences. Mabuza died a week ago at the age of 64. Dukwana says Mabuza was a unifying figure in the ANC.
We remember him as a Free State, especially during the very difficult elections in 2024. He played a very pivotal role for the organization. He was there. He supported us with all sources and his time, and we are therefore very, very grateful for his contribution, but also learning from everything that he did in his way in making sure that the ANC is united, and this is what we are thriving for as an organization. It's not easy, but we are working very hard to make sure that we keep the ANC united and we keep the ANC doing what it's supposed to be doing.
And finally, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has announced he is imposing sanctions on Francesca Albanese, the United Nations Human Rights Council Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in the Palestinian territory. The Italian citizen and academic is essentially an independent expert the Geneva-based council appointed. She's a strong critic of Israel's war in Gaza and a supporter of the rights of Palestinians. Showan Bryce Peace reports.
Rubio says Albanese's campaign of political and economic warfare against the United States and Israel would no longer be tolerated and that the United States would always stand by its partners in their right to self-defense. Last week, Albanese, who refers to Israel's war in Gaza as a genocide, called for explanations from countries including Italy, France and Greece for allowing a plane carrying Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to fly over their airspace en route to the United States, arguing that they might have flouted their Rome Statute obligations to arrest the ICC indicted leader. She also released a report earlier this month detailing corporations she argues aids Israel in its war in Gaza, urging the ICC to investigate and prosecute corporate executives and entities.
Recapping the top story, Action SA will today lead a protest outside the KwaZulu-Natal Police Headquarters in Durban to demand urgent action on the deepening crisis in the criminal justice system. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
With all the recent headlines, it's time for some good news. A 25-year-old man, Tyler, is smiling all the way to the bank. He switched to Outsurance and now saves a whopping 718 Rand a month on the insurance for his 2021 Ford Figo 1.5. Get a quote today and see how much Outsurance could save you on your car insurance. Call 08600 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
In sports, Madrid bids farewell to Modric bids farewell to Madrid, and Lyle Noah set to make return to the track. More details at 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, Pretoria. First up, a section of Linwood Road remaining closed between the M1 Highway and Atterbury Road. That's for some overnight road work, still closed this morning. Midrand down to Joburg, pretty heavy. Allendale Road on the N1 down to Marlborough Drive on the Mike 1. If you're coming out of Midrand towards Sandton, a lot of traffic there. And the R21 South, queuing into the roadworks at Bupsfontein. That's on your way to the airport. Make sure you got some extra time to get through that one. Durban looking okay on the highways this morning. Very light conditions. There is a crash scene. It's on the Komashu Highway at Duff's Road. There's all sorts of delays around that one this morning. And Cape Town, a crash scene on the N1 out of town at Plateau Cliff Hill. That's a big queue from Monte Vista as you line up out towards Belleville. A collision on Marine Drive at Boundary Road. Delays through Milnerton. And the M5 is pretty heavy this morning. Motorists queuing up through Rondebosch towards the Kuberg interchange. And heavy out of Mitchell's Plain with a broken down truck on the M7 at Samora Michelle. M7 North, R300 West. Both of those routes out that side of Mitchell's Plain. Heavy backlogs. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It is coming up to 10 minutes after 8 on this Thursday. It's great to be in your company. This is the third hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM 104 to 107. Just still reeling from the conversation we had at the end of the last hour, really, with the Deputy Mayor of OR Tambo District Municipality, Thandegile Sabisa, talking about the death of the 4 initiates in the OR Tambo District Municipality. Over the last few years, this has been one of those districts that has been at the forefront in a negative way, in the sense that the number of initiate deaths that have occurred there, as well as the Alfred Nzo district as well. Those are the 2 districts really that have been the epicenter of the deaths of initiates. So the deputy mayor was talking about the frustration that the campaigns that they have been leading about responsible practices around initiation don't seem to be bearing much fruit. I mean, I was just looking at a statistic from a report that was released earlier a few months ago that said since 2016, 370 initiates had died in the Eastern Cape since 2016. So there's clearly a major problem to be attended to. And the causes of death, and I suppose that's where we should be looking. What are the causes of death, and therefore how do we address those? Dehydration, pneumonia, septicemia emerging as the leading causes. But it all becomes very difficult when you have illegal initiation schools that are not registered the way that they should be registered. How do you enforce that? How do you counter these causes of deaths when you don't even know of that initiation school existing? A comment here from someone on the WhatsApp line says, there's stories of dying initiates in the Eastern Cape. Every initiation season must be stopped. Those boys, how come they are dying in the hands of their fathers? They have been monitored. They are being monitored by their own fathers and brothers. What's wrong? What wrong are they doing that leads to their own children dying at initiation schools? Something is being done wrong in that situation. So says that one of the listeners. So keep engaging with these issues as well as any other issues that are on your mind. We've talked quite at length about the allegations made by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi and the subsequent announcement of nearly said tricameral. I don't want to say that in the tripartite is the word. Tricameral would refer to something else from our dark past. Tripartite committee investigation by the committees in Parliament. The numbers to dial 086 000 2032 or send me a WhatsApp voice note on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We're leading the conversations that move us. Let's get into the third hour of the Thursday edition of The Morning Brief.
We spend a lot of time looking for deals, but we don't invest the same time in our health. Your health buys you more time with the people you love. So who are you staying healthy for, and how can you improve your health? Choose Dis-Chem Life, the life cover that rewards you for living healthier with lower premiums and more cover. Visit dischemlife.co.za now. Dis-Chem Life. Choose a better partner for life. Dis-Chem Life is an authorized FSP 50594, underwritten by Guardrisk Life, a licensed life insurer, FSP 76. T's and C's apply.
The Eagles of Carthage and the Phoenix both believe they are the queens of North Africa. Who are the real queens of the North? This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations, Morocco 2024. Catch the spectacular battle between Tunisia and Algeria this Thursday, 10 July at 6 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 200-gram Baker's Red Label cream biscuits. Buy any two for 38 Rand. Plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Or 400-gram Black Cat peanut butter, excluding no sugar, for 34.99 and save 15 Rand. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Prices valid until 21 July 2025. While stocks last. T's and C's apply.
It's all about fresh fish and vibrant flavors on the Tastemaster SA this Tuesday evening at 7:30 on SABC2 as our top four visit the Hout Bay Harbour for a crash course in seafood the old school way. Then reel in a gourmet seafood takeaway experience of their own. Who will sink and who will swim into the semi-finals? The Tastemaster SA, Tuesday evenings at 7:30, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. on SABC2.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag The Morning Brief.
All right, the following conversation is brought to you and sponsored by Samsung South Africa. Let's get into it then. Samsung is raising the bar for smartphones with the latest Galaxy Z Fold 7 series. The ultra-sleek, ultra-powerful Galaxy Z Fold 7 and pocket-sized AI powerhouse Galaxy Z Flip 7 have launched. Samsung's newest Galaxy foldables represent the next leap in smartphone innovation, refined through years of breakthrough engineering and elevated with advanced intelligence. They are the thinnest and lightest Galaxy Z series designs yet, and they pair cutting-edge performance and seamless Galaxy AI integration. These foldables are more than form factor marvels. They are adaptive, context-aware companions that respond intuitively to your needs. So let's speak then to Justin Hume, who is Vice President Mobile Experience at Samsung South Africa. Justin, good morning, and thank you for your time this morning. We talk about these foldables being the thinnest and lightest. Just tell me about why that is important in the context of integration of everything we need these days, including AI technologies.
Well, very good morning, and thanks for chatting. Yeah, we're certainly excited about the launch of these foldable devices, and you spoke about thinness and where that goes. I think just to put the listeners in the picture here is that you've typically got a bar-type phone, the one that we're familiar with, and then foldables are where that bar type then opens up almost into a mini tablet-type format. And, you know, when you carry these devices around with you 24/7 and the like, weight and thickness of the product is something that's quite important to the user. So today, the new Z Fold 7 opens up to an 8-inch tablet display, and yet it weighs just 215 grams. So that's the equivalent of maybe your cup of morning coffee or a chocolate bar. So it fits in the pocket and that very snugly and conveniently. But it doesn't compromise anything in terms of the performance of the device, the camera quality that we have. And as you mentioned, the AI capability these days has really accelerated compared to when we first launched as an industry launch just over a year ago, AI on mobile. So really what we're seeing today is this convergence or a collaboration between where hardware is accelerating, software with AI is accelerating, but the two together, that allows for breakthrough moments.
So I don't know. I felt like there was a moment when foldables were no longer really a thing, Justin. Sure. Was I incorrect in that? Are they making a comeback? And does that have to do with the lifestyle that you're seeking to support in this innovation?
Good observation. And I think, initially, yes, this idea of, okay, I can open up a phone to unfold was a big catch. And then it was, okay, now what do I do with that? And the iterations of that was fairly slow. And that's why we've moved away from this idea of that I'm almost paying for the fact that my product unfolds. I want to have the very best features that a normal bar-type phone would have, which is now on this device, as that you're compromising nothing, but with the ability to open up. But now again, thinking about where AI comes into the fore, and this is why I think foldables are getting really re-energized, is I'm able to have the large format screen. I'm able to, let's assume, we're having a chat here quickly and we've got to come up together with a quick presentation. I can talk to Google AI Pro, that's part of the offer that we're launching with you, and say, listen, create a short video with audio to present the key features of the Galaxy Z Fold 7. I can see that on a large screen display. I can actually then move separate it and have version 1 and version 2 next to each other, just like I would have on a PC. So that productivity, that capability that is embedded now makes it incredibly powerful and practical.
But Justin, these days we want to create content, man. You've got to work with us. Tell me about what's in these foldables, the Galaxy Z Fold 7, that support the culture of content creation.
So let's think about when you have a video that you take on your mobile device, right? So imagine you and I were having a chat. Let's say we were doing a live interview, and in the background, suddenly the coffee machine comes on, and you hear that grinding sound of the espresso beans and that. Immediately within that environment, I can select AI to take out the background noise, so that the only thing you hear is your voice and my voice.
Nice.
Now, this is something that happens so frequently, whenever we're taking videos and that, somebody either photobombs it or there's audio noise in the background, like, we can erase that with absolutely no problem. The second thing, if we're thinking about then editing, normally editing on a mobile device is pretty tricky. Here, I can literally swipe up and give half the screen to the actual video content. And at the bottom, I have, the actual sound track and visual track separated out, just like your producer would be looking at right now, in terms of to be able to mix the levels, to cut in certain locations and that. Now, this is something that is very difficult to do on a traditional handset. We can create it there. And then, again, coming back to the power of creativity, I can... often I have an idea in my mind, and I think about this with my team, and you're talking about content creation, right? And I'm finding it difficult to express it. What does it visually look like? And now I simply talk to my phone. Okay, I want you to come up with an image of a dog with a hat on, sitting on the beach, staring at the brand new Z Fold 7. And immediately it can contextualize that, it can create it and provide that. Now, whether that's something I use or something that at least starts the inspiration, that's up to me. But that's the type of powering content creation that's triggered.
Lastly, then, Justin, as I'm listening to you, so I think it's two models. Is it Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 7 and Fold 7 series? I'm just thinking it will cost a lot, won't it? Talk to me about availability in this country and what we're looking at in terms of pricing.
Right, so availability, it's pre-orders now, but on shelves from the 1st of August. Pricing varies, but we can, depending on your memory sizes that you have and the like, but our pre-order offer is double up your memory. So if you go in and you buy a Z Fold 7 and you pay for the 256 gigabyte memory, we will upgrade you to 512 memory. And if anybody knows, mobile memory is one of the most expensive components of a device. So this is real value. On top of that, 6 months of Google AI Pro on board. But one of the things that we haven't really touched on is the introduction of the Z Flip 7 FE, the fan edition. And this is where we are introducing a far more affordable flip product to market. So traditionally, these products, if you're looking on a mobile contract, they would be north of R1,000 per month. This is from just $7.99 per month. So we're really trying to expand the range and give more affordability and access.
Yeah, it's about value. It's about value, Justin.
Exactly.
Thank you for your time this morning. That's Justin Hume, Vice President for Mobile Experience at Samsung South Africa.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
30 years ago, a moment united a nation. From Ellis Park to every township and village, we stood together. One people, one dream, one victory. Now, the vibration rises again. From the heart of Mzansi to every corner of the country. The 4-time world champions, the mighty Springboks, take on the Azuri in a clash where history meets destiny. This is more than a match. It's a country moment, only on SABC. Celebrate the 30th anniversary of our 1995 Rugby World Cup victory. Watch South Africa versus Italy, Saturday 12 July at 4 p.m. Live on SABC2 and streaming on SABC+. Also available on SABC radio stations at 5 p.m. Download the SABC Plus app now. Switch, stream, no subscription. SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Let me take one or two voice notes before we get to Dumi with the sports update.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Eastern Cape has got unemployed doctors and nurses. Why can't it be them who go and perform the circumcisions at the mountains? Because I believe that they are the people who would know what to look for, the vital signs of life, and they would be able to screen the initiates before the circumcision, and they would ensure that there is extreme hygiene in those places, ensuring the life and safety of the initiates.
Yeah, solid suggestion there. Really, really solid suggestion, because that pre-screening requirement has been incorporated into it, into how the practice is undertaken. But there continues to be other issues, and I think from the traditional leadership over the last few months that we've spoken to over the last few months, the issue of dehydration and the beliefs among the young men as they undergo this rite of passage about, whether or not you drink water, etc. Those are some of the issues that need dismantling from what I've come to understand from the various conversations. But what you are suggesting, absolutely solid. Let me take this one very quickly about Fikile Mbalula. What about the ANC Secretary General?
Morning, Thulas. Thulas, there is an angle which you are missing as well. Drag in Fikile Mbalula there. Comrade Mbax said that they were all informed about the disbanding of that political killing task team. Go to that angle and see who informed them and why weren't the police top leadership not informed. Andrew Butterworth.
All right, thank you for that suggestion. It would be interesting to hear from the ANC Secretary General just weighing in on these matters. The letter that became public was penned by the minister himself, Minister Senzo Mchunu, and it stated 31st December 2024. So right on New Year's Eve, and one caller was commenting about that yesterday. But that is the letter, and that's why General Masemola says, look all over. You will not find a letter that has my signature that said this task team must be disbanded.
This is SAFM Sports with Dumi Nkgapele.
In sports this hour, Luka Modric made his final Real Madrid appearance in the team's 4-0 loss to Paris Saint-Germain in the Club World Cup semi-finals. Modric featured off the bench in every single match of Madrid's Club World Cup campaign, logging a total of 119 minutes in the newly expanded competition. Next up for the Madrid icon is AC Milan, where he will embark on a new chapter of his legendary career. Meanwhile, PSG coach Luis Enrique has been full of praise for Ousmane Dembele after they win.
Well, it's the first match in this World Cup that we can use Ousmane as a normal player because he was injured with the national team, and we try to take care of him, and I think he's the best player this season by a long term, and I think he deserves to win everything because he gave everything to the team, and the team is going to achieve trophies, that which is the most important thing for a club.
Meanwhile, Orlando Pirates have confirmed that Winnapule Saleng is on loan to newly promoted Betway Premiership side Orbit College for the 2025-26 season. Saleng has not played for Pirates since the 7th of December, and his representatives released a statement in February where they cited significant issues at the core of the employer-employee relationship. In athletics, Noah Lyles makes his much-anticipated return to elite competition. This is when he competes in the 200-meter at the Diamond League meet in Monaco tomorrow. as the athletes continue to fine-tune their form ahead of September's World Championships in Tokyo. Lyles will line up against the Olympic champion Tebogo Letsile. Then in rugby, the junior Springboks recorded their third straight bonus point victory in the pool phase of the World Rugby Under-20 Championship as they beat Scotland by 73-14. The win brought 11 outstanding tries, with winger Jack Williams breaking a brace alongside scrum half Keanu Everson. And South Africa will play Argentina next in the semis. In tennis, Novak Djokovic set up a mouth-watering Wimbledon semi-final clash against world number one Yannick Sinner after beating Flavio Cobolli 6-7, 6-2, 7-5 and 6-4. And then in the women's draw, five-time Grand Slam winner Iga Swiatek and former Olympic champion Belinda Bencic both reached the semi-finals for the first time and will clash for a place in the final. On that note, it is a wrap from my side. Ke nna Tumeng Kgapele, Modimo ke yo.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the Judicial Conduct Tribunal is today expected to see the conclusion of the cross-examination of Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge. He's on the stand from Monday giving his version of events in the landmark sexual harassment probe against him. Action SA will today lead a protest outside the KwaZulu-Natal Police Headquarters in Durban to demand urgent action on the deepening crisis in the criminal justice system. And the Tsegofatso Pule Foundation has expressed outrage over the Roodepoort Magistrate Court's decision to grant bail to Mduduzi Mnisi, who's accused of murdering 14-year-old Lukona Fose. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Start of Victoria with a reminder that Linwood Road stays closed this morning after some overnight roadworks having an impact this morning. The road effectively closed from just west of the M1 highway through towards Atterbury. It's a full closure of Linwood Road, so expect some diversions around there. The Mike 1 coming off the N1 Buccleuch stays busy right through to Marlborough Drive. It's been backed up all morning on your way through to Santon. There's also some pressure on the Mike 1 North approaching Grayston Drive. And if you're into Santon, William Mandela to Republic Road is heavy. Morningside South Road across to Rivonia and Rivonia heading down to Grayston Drive. A lot of pressure in and around the commute on your way to Santon this morning. Stationary truck after Market Road on your way to Durban. That scene has been cleared. Spaghetti Junction's had a really good run through this morning, particularly on the northbound side. It is just starting to slow up on the southbound, coming from Umgeda Road into 4 level. That has the hallmarks of a broken down vehicle in the roadworks there. And Cape Town, a crash on Marine Drive inbound at Boundary Road, slowing traffic. A big delay out of town towards Belleville with a crash on Plattercliff Hill, halfway up the hill towards Yiptiaga. Backlog through to Monte Vista and looking fairly extreme. And the R300 coming out of Mitchell's Plain remains backed up towards the M7. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning once again to Ndauling. Ndauling, for this last update, let's start with news out of the property sector. Tell me about the growth that we are seeing in residential property.
That's right, Tula. So we are seeing the local residential property market experiencing a moderate slowdown in growth in the second quarter, driven by economic uncertainty and reflected in lower activity levels and sentiment among estate agents. That's as the FNB Property Barometer reported a decline in overall activity. The index slipped to 5.9 from 6.3 in the first quarter. Despite this slowdown, the affordable housing segment, properties under 750,000 rands, showed resilience with activity levels at 6.2 and agent sentiment surging to 72%, up from 58% in the first quarter. The segment benefits from rate-sensitive buyers and limited supply. First-time buyers are increasingly active in the market, now accounting for 26% of activity, up from 24% in the first quarter. They have a strong presence in the affordable segment, making up 46% of buyers. Now, buy-to-let investors are also growing their share, targeting lower-priced properties with an increased share of 12%. The traditional mid-market of 750,000 rands to 1.6 million rands saw a decline in both activity and sentiment, with satisfaction levels also dropping to 45%. Regional variations were evident, with activity increasing in KZN and the Eastern Cape, while Gauteng experienced declines.
In the construction sector in Ndauling, why is Stefanutis Stocks ditching their operations in Mozambique and Mauritius?
Now, this is part of its restructuring plan, where they're looking to sell off some of their non-core assets to pay off debt. Subsidiaries in Mozambique and Mauritius are a part of that sale, and they'll be selling those subsidiaries to East Africa Enterprises, a Dubai-based company. The sale is worth about $4 million and involves the disposal of SS Construction in Mauritius for $700 million and SS Mozambique for $3.2 million. The proceeds from the sale will be used to reduce the company's debt. The sale is subject to regulatory approvals, lender consents, and other conditions precedent, and forms part of a broader reconstructuring plan approved by the company's board and lenders, aiming for completion by mid next year. Now, Stefanutis Stocks reported a mixed financial performance in its last results, with growth in its core business offset by concerns about its financial sustainability. The company's current liabilities exceed its assets by 1.3 billion rands, and that, of course, raising uncertainty about its ability to continue as a going concern.
Lastly, Ndauling, what kind of a trading day can we expect in the markets today?
We could be in for another mixed day in local markets. Not much company news here at home, so traders will be eyeing global developments. In the currency scene, the rand strengthening from the last hour. It is sitting at 17.73 to the dollar this hour. Over in Wall Street, trade there, or rather futures on that end, mixed. There we have investors digesting yesterday's Fed minutes. And then lastly, in Asia, markets on track to close the day in mixed territory. Trade there is quite choppy. We are seeing a lot of the pressure being felt by the Japanese Nikkei as Japan and the US struggle to reach a trade deal.
Ndauling, because I'm someone who cares, I want to ease you back into these things and make sure that there's no shock, there's no trauma, you are au fait with the cultural changes that have happened in the time that you've not been to studio. So we have a new tradition in the studio. We call it Friday Donut Day. and the person returning from leave or who was away brings donuts and brings coffee. Just saying.
So it's my turn.
I don't know. Look, all of us have been here. Who hasn't been here in a while? That's all I'm saying.
This is a trap.
So you see now this week with Zion not being in studio, naturally when she comes back next week, Friday Donut Day means that she has to oblige. So the one who's not been here, who will be here tomorrow, know what to do. Do the right thing.
Okay, I'll take it.
All right, Ndauling, we'll see you tomorrow. That's Ndauling Lichela. She's kept you updated on all things to do with the business, the economy, as well as the markets over the last 3 hours.
The Atlas Lionesses want to demonstrate that the only satisfying result is a win. Meanwhile, the Teranga Lionesses want to brighten the evening of the Senegalese with maximum points. The North collides with the West. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Morocco is up against Senegal on Saturday, 12 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Mr. Govinda, congrats on the retirement. You just sold your car to We Buy Cars. Tell us about it.
Yes, it just gathered dust in the garage, so I exchanged it for cold hard cash. Now my wife and I can enjoy a stress-free retirement.
Retiring the car as you retire. Nice.
So why We Buy Cars?
It was so quick. They came over to our house to do the evaluation, and we sold it the same day. Tops, man.
Okay, so now you got even more time on your hands, eh?
Exactly.
We Buy Cars. Geared for your next chapter, geared for you.
30 years ago, a moment united a nation. From Ellis Park to every township and village, we stood together. One people, one dream, one victory. Now, the vibration rises again. From the heart of Mzansi to every corner of the country. The four-time world champions, the mighty Springboks, take on the Azuri in a clash where history meets destiny. This is more than a match. It's a country moment, only on SABC. Celebrate the 30th anniversary of our 1995 Rugby World Cup victory. Watch South Africa versus Italy, Saturday 12 July at 4 p.m. Live on SABC2 and streaming on SABC+. Also available on SABC radio stations at 5 p.m. Download the SABC Plus app now. Switch, stream, no subscription. SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
Coming up to 19 minutes to 9, let's get into this conversation about one of the critical services in our country, but that is at times in a spot of bother, really problematic issue of water and sanitation. Well, the Minister, Phemi Majodina, yesterday tabling the Department of Water and Sanitation's 2025-2026 budget vote before the National Assembly. The budget vote, we are told, was meant to echo President Cyril Ramaphosa's pronouncement during the State of the Nation address that an urgent priority needs to be paid to issues of ensuring secure and reliable supply of water across the country. You'll know, of course, that issues of water have also been elevated in terms of Operation Vulindlela, the second phase of Operation Vulindlela. Let's find out then how it all unfolded and how those priorities will be advanced with this budget vote. Let's speak to the Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, David Mahlobo, who joins me now. Thank you for your time, Deputy Minister. Let's start with that aspect of advancing the prioritization of water supply. Many communities in municipalities, including the metros, battling with intermittent water supply issues, the huge debts that are owed by municipalities to water boards. What in this budget are you saying about addressing those issues?
No, thank you so much, Thulasizwe, and a very good morning to you and your listeners. You are absolutely correct. We are facing very serious challenges when it comes to water provisioning. And when we presented this budget, we are presenting it at the backdrop after we had an opportunity of having a water indaba where we agreed on a 5-point plan with two aspects. Aspect number one is to ensure that there is water security in terms of assurance of availability, because as a water scarce country, if we don't do certain things, we'll be in a position not to secure water beyond 2030 for the demands of the many sectors of our economy and the growth in the population and climate change. There are too many projects that we are actually rolling out for the bulk infrastructure that are related to issues of water security. And in the main, some of these monies that we have, because we have two accounts, there is a trading entity, of which in the next 3 years we are projecting. The trading entity is the one where we collect water use charges. You know, when we sell water to water boards and other entities, we charge them. Over the next 3 years, we are looking at 137 billion rands, so that we can be able to pay debts that are taken by TCTA for Lesotho Highlands, but go to the market and get more water. But we're also looking at other methods of building more dams.
Yeah.
Then the second part is the one that we are referring to. The one about the role of municipalities. We know that the country does have access to an infrastructure like a tap at home is currently at 90%. But the availability of water, like you said, some of these taps have been dry for too long. Some of them, they've never had water running out. That is called reliability. The reliability in South Africa is currently at 68%. You have a tap, you have a 90% access. We have a remaining 10% that you need to do to have an infrastructure. But when the water is there for 24/7, and 365, we are down at 68. We want to push that matter to around more than 80% to 90% by the year 2030. But then the existing that municipalities are also causing reliability is called non-revenue water. Their assets are not in good position. The reliability is around 47%, and it must be pushed down, especially in metros and other areas, to below 30%. We have the money we have put aside in what the money we get from the state. It's called the main account. It has about 74.94 billion. Out of that amount, 48 billion is being set aside just for water services provision, where we give water money through the regional bulk infrastructure grants and water services improvement grants. All those monies are not sufficient. You know, the world for you to achieve SDGs, you need about 7 trillion. In our own country, we need about 1 trillion rand just to do that. Then we do something called blended financing on how to help them. We go to National Treasury, there's a budget facility working with the infrastructure fund as part of Operation Vulindlela. We've been able to mobilize 23 billion, but that's not sufficient. There are many projects that are all over the country to do that. And then, but we're also using private sector where we're bringing in money from the mines, in big projects like in Duop Dam, Yosikokun and others. Those are some of the things that we are trying to support these municipalities to do what they are supposed to do.
In practical terms, though, Deputy Minister, because the assessment, and I think the Minister made that point to say, in the main, we don't have a bulk water supply issue in our country. Yes, you've just outlined what you will do to buttress that even more. But in the main, it seems our issue is at reticulation, infrastructure, which is at municipal level. In practical terms, having said what you've said, what will South Africans in Johannesburg, in Mangaung, in eThekwini start seeing that says there's a shift in focus on these issues that you highlight, for example, non-revenue water, the leakages, and this old infrastructure that has fallen behind in terms of maintenance? I know that falls in the main in the realm of municipalities, even in terms of the areas of responsibility. But surely we're at a point where you can't be bystanders as the national department. You've got to get plugged in there.
We are absolutely correct. One of the things that I need to indicate is that because of the neglect of this level of governance, they are not going to be overnight solutions. I'll be lying to South Africans if I promise them. But at the very same time, there are concrete steps that are happening. One of the concrete steps that the President has decided, while water is a priority, in Operation Vulindlela, there is an item called fixing local government, because if we don't fix it, we are going to have problems. On our side, all these big metros around water issue, we've created a non-revenue water program just for metros. We are working with the World Bank, we are working with our partnership office. All our metros as we speak right now, they've produced turnaround plan. There's billions of rands that are also made through the DBSA so that we can be able to support. I'm from Sevilla attending the high-level 4th International Conference on Financing of Heads of State, and on the sidelines we dealt with the issues of water issues. And it is money that the issues of the United Fund and others that they've put aside. These municipalities were starting to give them, we have mobilized technical expertise, like we did with the city of Cape Town. Johannesburg has been placed in the presidential working group like Durban. They are starting to work out to say, how do we fix the leaks? How do we get to the technical know-how that we need to do? We need to be moving to Nelson Mandela and others. But we have said now, we must start to include the issues of strategic towns in many, many other areas because of the population size that you find. But also municipalities, they know now, they've admitted that they don't have the capacity. While they are building their capacity to Thulasizwe, citizens can't wait. That's why we agreed on the delivery model to change. that in the meantime, let them appoint other competent authorities like the water boards. They can do concessions like in Mpumalanga, there's Lulumans, in Palito, there's another Sieza Water, and others. Mfuleni, which has been a problem for quite some time, we are so pleased that a model called the Special Purpose Vehicle, just to help them to take them out of these doldrums. Now National Treasury has agreed. Rainwater has put an STV with them. They are bringing in private sector, and then they are coming with their balance sheet, with the expertise that exists in Rainwater. Because if we don't intervene there, they will never be able to move. But I must admit, our ability to support and intervene in municipality has limitations. In other words, in terms of financial resources, whether we do Section 63, whether we do certain things. But there is also a leadership issue that those who run municipalities must rise to the occasion to lead those institutions properly.
Right. Let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, David Mahlobo.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
If you're on your way to Pretoria, you'll be queuing up on the N14, the Van Skuman Highway. A crash between the N1 Highway and Jean Avenues. Got traffic reasonably heavily backed up. Roadworks on the N1 North between Malabongwe Drive and Willie Mandela are already in place. That is going to stay slow, going from Randburg up to Four Ways until probably around 4 p.m. today. Double lane closure there. And if you're on your way to Sandton on Willie Mandela, a crash at Republic Road, holding traffic coming out of Bryanston down towards Hurlingham. The Mike 1 Buccleuch down to Woodmead Drive remains all backed up. It's been busy since about 6 a.m. this morning, getting around that obstruction. A closure just outside Durban, heading up towards Kwamashu. The Kwamashu Highway closed at Duffs Road, so there's a lot of congestion around that. The Kwamashu Highway backs from the N2 Highway out to Duffs Road. You might be able to sneak through the ramps, but you might have to divert down the R102, so a lot of congestion in that part of town. Some queues on the N2 North up towards the Gateway exit, moving up from Kwamashu as well. Cape Town, very heavy on the N1 out of town today. It's a crash involving a truck and a stationary truck on Plattekloof Hill. It's halfway between Plattekloof Road and the Yipta exits, and the backlog is severe. If you're trying to get out of Cape Town out towards Belleville, you'll queue from almost back as far as the N7 Highway Bridge. Also the M5 slow down up through Rondebosch towards the N2, and the R300 coming out of Mitchell's Plain still sluggish to join the M7 Jakes Kervell Drive. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Atlas Lionesses want to demonstrate that the only satisfying result is a win. Meanwhile, the Teranga Lionesses want to brighten the evening of the Senegalese with maximum points. The North collides with the West. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Morocco is up against Senegal on Saturday, 12 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
I tell you what, I see that I've lagged behind in terms of taking your voice notes. So I'm going to step back. You've heard my story. Let me hear your story on a variety of topics.
Good morning to Thulasizwe. Good morning to the SAFM listeners. The amount of allegation leveled against top cops, including the Minister of Police, has really decreased the trust between public and the men in uniform, and that is dangerous. The way I see it, I think we need to get to the bottom of this matter as quickly as possible so that we can reinstall the trust between the public and the police. So on the Pretoria.
Morning to us and the SAFM listeners. This is Nati from Cape Town. I just wanted to say, where is Mary Diaz in this? Because remember, she went on to say this was a pack of lies. Now that the Commissioner of South African Police said he didn't write any letter, and then also Muchunu admitting that he is a comrade with Brown Dash. So what's happening now? Thank you.
I have to come in there. Brown Dash. Brown Mokhotsi. But I get the point that you are making, that, there's obviously a follow through to the allegations. As far as the letter from the National Commissioner, I don't think there was ever confusion. I also don't remember seeing any letter from the National Commissioner. But I guess the question is, should the National Commissioner have not, what's the English? Should the National Commissioner not have been integrally involved if one of the units he commands are being dismantled? It was a political decision at the executive level, yes, but the levels to which the National Commissioner and the Provincial Commissioner, the people in command of the unit, have said, we were just never involved. We were just never involved. Surely raises some questions there, at the very least, about collaboration and process.
Good morning to Thulasizwe. With regards to the conversation you had with, I forget the gentleman's name, the gentleman that represented the South African Human Rights Commission, right? So what I don't understand till this very day is, why do these individuals bother themselves with situations and matters and issues that have nothing to do with them, but instead they turn a blind eye on critical situations they are supposed to be focusing on, issues that really concern them, they don't focus on. Hey, this South African Human Rights Commission is useless. Daniel here in Bryanston.
All right, thank you for that strong criticism there of the South African Human Rights Commission, and it's not new. I suppose we should bring them back at a different point because I've heard this cry that says they tend to focus on things that are not really a priority, whereas the issues that they should be focusing on are not central to their focus. Specifically, I've heard that criticism in the context of issues to do with illegal migration. When the commission has weighed in, I've heard that sentiment being expressed. I suppose occasion will rise when we can bring them back and focus on that. Let me take one or two calls. David in Togoza, good morning to you.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Very well, how are you? Please go ahead.
I'm well, thank you, sir. I'm going to be very, very short.
Sure.
Actually, I just want to add on that information that was revealed by Lieutenant Mkhwanazi.
Yes.
That in Parliament there are corrupt ministers sitting there who are serving the public even today. I'm sitting with evidence to prove that he is telling the truth. But I don't know how to convey this because I've tried many times, different departments, and I'm unsuccessful. I don't know if maybe
all right,
you can allow me to
that's an easy one.
Evidence.
Yeah, David, I'm saying that's an easy one. Let me ask you to stay on hold and let the team take your details, and perhaps they can share my number with you, and we can see how we can link you up with those that would be in a position to act on it. I don't do investigative journalist anymore. Of course, I'm not in the field anymore, but there are enough investigative journalists that can pick up that story, but also there are various institutions that are open for that. So David, stay on the line. We'll take your details. Let me take Raz Kingston in Kimberley. Good morning to you, Raz.
Good morning, Thulas. Good morning.
Sir.
Nice show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thulas, without wasting any time, I would just like to barge in on this issue of the initiates dying. I'm asking the country, can the country just make a law that says that it is illegal for these initiates to go for initiation without the supervision and the expertise of professional medical practitioners?
Yeah.
They have to be taken to hospitals, because we cannot say that because of culture, because culture can't supersede lives, because people are dying continuously and perpetually under the guise of culture, that we have to do this because it's our culture, but because our lives are being lost every single time.
Yeah.
So I think the South Africans, let government make these people or whoever they are in Dunas or whoever is making this to be illegal, because there are professional doctors, medical doctors that can do these circumcisions, and lives are never lost. Because I just took two of my boys for circumcision. We are taking them every year to the hospitals from the school side, but they can keep your culture, but make it the safer way. Go to hospital, let them be taken to. It should be a law. It should be a law. It should be made because lives are involved to us.
So, Raz, here's the difficulty. The circumcision is just a part of the processes, right? And the deaths sometimes do result from, septicemia and conditions related to that. But a lot of the times it's in the cultural beliefs and wrong beliefs that people hold and harbor as they go for this rite of passage. What about that other element that you can't carry out in a hospital?
Thus, I'm saying, Thulas, that other element that can be carried out in the hospital, it can be given room and space where you can practice your culture. Yeah. But the circumcision part, it has to be done, and the other part that what has to be supervised is that, like the gentleman said, they had an imbizo or what on the 3rd of February, and they went to check. But there has to be stationed there. People have to be stationed there from the medical profession who will be there, because there are people who are moving from outside checking people who are having AIDS and watching them and bathing them. They can be deployed at those people just for that period of the circumcision, so that they can be seen that laws have been followed and hygiene and all of those things. So that we don't just leave it on these people. Thank you, Thulas, for your show.
Thank you. That's Ras Kingston out in Kimberley. And that's how we come to the end of today's edition of The Morning Brief. The Talking Point with Kathy Mutlatlana is up next here on SAFM after the news with N. Musa. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, and you've been briefed.
In our top stories, Mbenenge's cross-examination expected to conclude today, and action essay to march in KwaZulu-Natal against crisis in the criminal justice system. Good morning. The Judicial Conduct Tribunal is today expected to see the conclusion of the cross-examination of the Eastern Cape Judge President, Selby Mbenenge. He's on the stand since Monday, giving his version of events in the landmark sexual harassment probe against him. Junior Judge's Secretary Andiswa Mengo has accused him of sexual harassment. The remaining cross-examination is expected to focus on an incident on the 14th or 15th of November 2022, in which Mengo alleged that Mbenenge had solicited an act of sexual nature. Action SA will today lead a protest outside the KwaZulu-Natal Police Headquarters in Durban to demand urgent action on the deepening crisis in the criminal justice system. This follows Provincial Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkwanazi's allegations that senior SAPS officials, including the Police Minister, Senzo Mchunu, are corrupt, have ties with criminal syndicates and interfere in police operations. Party provincial leader Zwakele Mngango has criticized the Speaker of the National Assembly, Toko Didiza, for assigning 3 portfolio committees to investigate the matter. He's adamant there is a strong case against the minister.
I think the Speaker is also doing what normally does by ANC leadership to shield each other, protect each other. Because at the end of the day, that process she is recommending is not going to bear any fruit. And I think the president must be brave enough